Yep, Charlamagne the guy.
Andrew Schulz.
We are the Brilliant Idiots podcast, back for another week of brilliant idiotness. And today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA Finals means next level basketball, and you can get in on the finals with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 on any of the two teams to win and get $150 in free bets instantly, okay? You win no matter what. All DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on NBA hoops with same-game parlays. Continue multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. Plus, each day of the first round, get a risk-free bet up to $10 if your same game parlay doesn't hit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code IDIOTS. Bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game during the finals and get $150 in free bets instantly. That's promo code IDIOTS at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Let's start the show. Hezekiah Walker.
What's up, my man?
How are you, man?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Man, I am blessed, black, and highly favored. We got a special guest here, man. My favorite news platform by far.
Whoa.
Oh, it's not even close. I've said that a million times. You know, I'm talking about period. Linear television, internet, whatever. I'm about to say internet television. Internet, whatever you want to call it.
High praise.
CEO of the Young Turks network is here. I'm not about to fuck up his name.
I wanted you to say it so fast.
Cenk Uygur. Cenk Uygur.
You know,
Cenk Uygur.
that is actually the correct pronunciation.
Cenk
Boom.
Uygur. We did it.
We go with Cenk Uygur, and online the right wing says chunky yogurt.
Chunky yogurt works.
I've been
Is
saying
yogurt Greek or Turkish?
So there's a fun story in there. So the guy who owns Chobani is Turkish.
Okay.
And he named it Greek yogurt. And I'm like, what'd you do that for? And every Turk's like, what'd you do that for? He's like, so it would sell more.
Yeah.
It's like Americans don't want to buy Turkish yogurt. They want to buy Greek yogurt. Greek
Fair
sounds
enough.
like lovely, right?
Fair enough.
But it is actually Turkish.
You think it started in Turkey?
Yogurt, everything started in Turkey.
This is this region of the world. You think Americans are arrogant? Please just go over to Turkey, go to Greece. Everything begins there. It's like, yeah.
But it kind of does. So my dad used to tell me, oh, I grew up in the oldest city in the world.
Yeah.
And then one day, Good Morning America, I'm watching it. I'm like 12 or 14 or whatever. And they're like, oh, and the oldest city in the world, Gaziantep. I'm like, oh my God, he was right. He lived in a city near the southeastern border with Syria.
Okay.
And he went to high school in Gaziantep. And at that moment, they found a more ancient city later.
Yeah.
But it was the oldest city in the world. And I looked it up in the London Museum, British Museum or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Fertile Crescent, where
it all started.
Eden is supposed to be. Is between the Tigris and the Euphrates, where my dad grew up. And
They keep inventing stuff in Turkey, because I saw something recently where they're like, yeah, Noah's Ark or the remnants are still here.
Oh, yeah, we made that up too,
Yeah.
I just saw that. The Garden of Eden, though? Did you ever go there or try to?
I did.
Okay.
It's not at all like the Garden of Eden.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad used to describe it like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. You got to see it. Meanwhile, my mom grew up at the same place. She's going, no. Okay. So we went there when I was 6. Oh, crazy story. You guys want to hear a crazy Turk story?
That's what podcasts are for.
Okay, so I got circumcised at the age of 6. Okay, so
ouch.
Yeah,
Okay.
ouch.
He knows what show he's on. He knows what show he's on.
Okay, it gets better. It gets better. Okay, so it's tradition in Turkey. I don't know if it's other Muslim countries, but it's like a rite of passage.
To do it at 6?
To do it around 6, yeah. So at 6, you can feel it.
So you have memories of your circumcision.
Oh, wait till you hear the memories.
Yeah.
So we went with the best circumciser in Istanbul.
Yeah.
Later, there was like a controversy. We covered up the Young Turks 20 years later. The guy was like literally famous. Oh, what a good circumciser.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go and it's in his backyard, okay? And all your family and friends show up and they take your pants down. Everybody's looking, okay? And then the doctor's like, do you want to do the shot, the painkiller? I'm like, no, I'm 6.
Yeah.
I want you to do the painkiller.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's okay. And then he's like, I'll put it here and then you press down. And so I did the painkiller and then they do the circumcision and fuck, it hurts.
Yeah.
Especially later.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hold up. Then they bring me to Eden, which is, my parents' hometown.
Yeah.
And they got me in a clown outfit. I mean, look, they have a cape, they have a thing, they have a like a hat and stuff. And they're like, oh, doesn't it feel great? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Right? Like, one, it didn't feel great. Two, the clown outfit doesn't help. Three, I'm in a dusty old town in southeastern Turkey.
Oh, no.
And then they said, no, it's okay. We got you a sheep, Ali. Okay? And I'm like, oh, Ali. I named him Ali, right?
Yeah.
They give you a sheep after they circumcise you?
Yeah, but I didn't know what for, right? They're like, oh, look at this
Test
sheep.
it out.
Right?
Foreskin, the sheep.
Okay, hold up.
Which coat keeps you
You're a
warmer?
man now.
Jesus Christ.
Get behind that thing.
Shit.
Wait, it gets worse. Okay, so I'm like, oh, Ali, good friend, etc.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, it's in your honor that we're doing this. And they slice his throat. Blood. We turns out
Bled more, you were the sheep.
it turns out we were eating Ali that night.
Nice.
Like that's like
I like that.
sacrifice. Now the thing is, it's not a bad thing because they give actually most of the food to the poor,
Right.
And that's part of the celebration.
Yeah.
And
We're,
like I'm atheist now, but growing up Muslim, the one thing that every imam is obsessed with is helping the poor.
helping the poor, yeah.
So that's really good, right?
Did they feed the poor your foreskin?
I don't know, but I don't know that would have helped.
Cute.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was traumatic, man.
What did they do with the foreskin?
I didn't ask. I mean, that would have been funny to keep as a souvenir, I guess.
And
but-
how did they get to the story of Eve getting made out of a rib? Clearly she was made out of foreskin.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of foreskin in the Bible. Like I actually bothered to read a lot of the Bible and the Quran because before I became an atheist, I was like, let me try it out. Let me make sure I give it a fair
Which Testament?
shot. Old Testament is filled to the rim with foreskin.
Yeah, because the New Testament. No, it's true.
Give me a scripture. I don't.
Okay. So no. One time God comes up and says to the Israelites, "Oh, okay. Look, you know what? I want you to go make peace with the other guys, the Canaanites or whoever they are, right? But I'm kidding. Don't actually make peace. Say to them, we'll give you our chicks if you guys cut your foreskin and are like us, okay?" And they're like, "Oh, they got hot women. Okay, sure, we'll do it." And then as soon as their foreskin's cut and they're hurt, go kill them all.
Wow.
That's in the Old Testament. And they do, and they kill them all.
Because they know they're like weak.
Because they're weak, because they just cut their foreskin. Right? So luckily that didn't happen to me.
How hot were those chicks that the guys are willing to cut their foreskins off, though?
Yeah,
That seems like a horrible trade.
That's why I like the LeBron James version of the Bible. That old shit was brutal.
Yeah. We need more like inspiring stories.
Yo, how do you go from an atheist? I've never heard of a person that worshipped Islam or Islam was every
Became an
become an
atheist?
atheist.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess-
how you abandon Allah?
Get some white pussy in college, man.
Well, first of all, that'll do it.
Talking pussy. Talking white pussy.
Pussy will
I
switch
can't
you
do
up
this.
real quick.
Then you look up and you're like, you understand, right?
Wait, how old are you?
When I became atheist? 22.
What I say?
Okay, so here's what happened. I took Introduction to Islam at Penn, and I had a great professor, Professor O'Brien or something like that. He was an Irish dude who loved Islam. And he sold it so heavy. He's like, look at the poor, the needy, all these great things. And those things are in there. All the books have great things and terrible things, right? So he focused on all the great things. So I kind of got more into Islam. And the sophomore year of college, I was like, I'm not drinking, I'm not eating, like, I'm not doing hamburger. I mean, I gave up bacon. It doesn't get any worse than that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of into it. And then I started reading the Quran more because I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be a good Muslim, I should read the Quran. I started reading it by myself without the professor. I'm like, whoa, that doesn't make any sense, right? And I flipped the book and I'm like, holy shit, that doesn't make any sense either.
Do you remember
right?
a particular passage that really didn't make sense?
So I'd say that the straw that broke the camel's back, in this case, almost literal. So I read a whole bunch of the Quran and great parts in there, but tons of shit that doesn't make sense. Then I'm like, maybe the Bible's got it figured out, right? So I start reading it, and I'm getting the foreskin, and we're sprinkling goat's blood everywhere, and it's madness. I get to the Tower of Babel story, and I'm like, wait, let me get this right. Humans worked together, built this beautiful tower, okay? And God was jealous, and then he knocked the tower down, and he made all of us speak different languages, so we couldn't work together anymore. And I'm like, okay, if that God exists, then I'm against it.
I get it. I can understand that. That makes perfect sense.
Well, you got to read the New Testament.
Yeah. New Testament's better. It is better. I mean, because Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is a nice guy. And he's like, hey, you know what? Maybe the poor, the needy, right? And maybe
Boys.
Yeah.
Probably because the Old Testament was making too many people feel like you. You know, so it was harder to get people to submit to that religion if they didn't believe in it.
Well, I mean, there's two things. The Old Testament was originally Jewish, right? And so in the Jewish religion, you don't want converts. They're like, oh, can I be Jewish? Like, no, we're cool, okay? I had a friend who got married, who was Jewish, married a Mexican girl, and she had to go through, jump through 18 different hoops just to become Jewish, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't even trying to sell it, right, to be fair to them. But if you did try to sell it, it's a tough sell. It's a super tough sell. Jesus came up with a genius idea. He's like, I forgive you all. Okay, they're like, oh, that's awesome. I did a lot of terrible shit. You forgive me? That's awesome. And he came up with a second idea. He's like,
Technically, John the Baptist came up with that idea.
yeah, well, I mean, technically.
God came up with it, but I think John had people in the river and he was forgiving sins, you know?
Okay.
I'm just saying, if
I'm
we
an
go by the
atheist.
text.
So I'll tell you, really.
John the Baptist gets really slept on, I have to say.
I agree with you. By the way, I think Bernie's John the Baptist.
Shout out Bernie, man.
Okay.
Shout out Bernie.
We'll get back
What does
to
that mean? Is AOC Jesus? Is that?
Well, whoever's next. Whoever's next. Okay. Well, in a political analogy, the person who wins from Bernie's side next will be the guy who saves the country.
Jake
Then
said
they'll
it here
crucify
first.
him.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way it's going.
Can't let that happen. Hand out my pocket.
How it started, how it's going. Anyways, so, and then Jesus came up with love, which is a genius idea. I love you all. And people are like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So this guy loves me and he's going to take care of me. He's like, yeah, I'm signing up for that. And the trade that they made, the real guy who did all of this is Emperor Constantine, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that put the Bible together.
See how they
Fact,
always take
created Christianity.
You see how they always take credit, bro? You
No,
see
that's true, though.
No, but you see how they always take credit?
You know why? Because Constantine's from Constantinople. That's
Exactly.
Istanbul, where I was born.
He just found a way to make it Turkish. It's absolute bullshit, okay?
Wait till you
He
find out.
just found a way to make it Turkish. No, we're not going to do it.
Find out Abraham Lincoln and Elvis Presley are also Turkish.
No.
That's a
Really?
Tell me if I got the story right. Christianity was created by Constantine, and Constantine essentially needed a mascot.
Wrong.
And the mascot was Jesus.
Wrong.
look-
Christianity was not created by Constantine. I think Constantine
Codified.
Yeah, he codified he basically made it the official religion of the Roman Empire.
But he put a face to it, right?
But Charlamagne's right, okay, because so Constantine pulls together all the different books that are out there. But remember, this is 300 years after Jesus, right?
I don't even think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think I know what you're talking
It's the
about.
Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, but
Council of Nicaea,
I
that's
think
right.
that they found texts that had existed before that. But I think a lot of times we confuse what the council is
But there was
actually
no religion called Christianity.
Of course, the believers of Christ were Christians. This has happened for years.
Hodgepodge. What
Until the
Constantine-
Turks came in.
No,
organized it all.
Constantine branded it. He marketed it.
To be fair, Constantine's
Yeah.
Greek, right? And so just like the yogurt.
Yes.
So anyways, what he does is he puts together the book, the Bible, right? He's like, okay, these books, we don't like them, that they don't help. These books, we do like them, and he makes that the Bible. So he's kind of the creator of the Bible, for sure. But those books did exist. That's why Andrew's right about that, right?
I think that's
But that's when it takes off, because then Constantine goes,
Well, that's when it
forget-
stops being illegal.
Yeah.
The reason it could take off is because at the time it was being illegal. I mean, like Christians were being persecuted like crazy for their beliefs. Then Constantine goes, all right, we're going to make this shit the official religion of the Roman Empire. And then all the people are like, oh, well, we can like practice what we're doing and publicly and not have to worry about being murdered. And that was a pretty
But
awesome.
he packaged it right.
Well, that's the thing. I think that I think we kind of like misremember history with the Council of Nicaea. I think it already been packaged before. And then I think that there was a meeting of like the different, what would you call them at the time? This is like, there is no Catholicism at the time.
Clergy,
It's like,
church leaders, whatever you want to
and
call
I think they were having conversations about like what texts were going to be part of the canon.
Right.
But I don't think the Council of Nicaea officially canonized the Bible. I think that it existed prior to that.
Okay, so
I might be off on this, but
no. It's
Yeah, I don't
okay,
think the
because
Bible is-
Either way, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly, 'cause
somebody
it's the
put
right way to
together
go
the
to
book
heaven,
and It wasn't
yeah.
Jesus. And remember, like it was 300 years later. People are like, "Oh, I think I remember Bob telling me that Fred told him
Right.
that Susie told him that Jesus did this 300 years." They don't remember that at all.
These are first person accounts and two of the canons, and then I think there's one that was written by somebody afterwards. But I think 3 of the books were first person accounts of Jesus' life.
From what I read, and we'll
2?
look into it,
Two are, yeah.
is that the first one that gets written down is 70 years after Jesus died.
That's Mark.
Mark, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
70 years,
But
when
that's-
there's nothing written down, you know game of telephone. By the
Yeah,
time
absolutely.
Jesus does it,
Yeah.
and 70 years later, the first guy writes a book about it,
Yeah.
that ain't even Jesus.
You seen the book
So-
of Eli?
See what I'm saying?
No, 100%. But if we're gonna take that, and I'm looking at me like defending Christianity right here. But like, if we're gonna take that approach, then like we have to take that approach to all of history.
Oh,
We
that's
do.
definitely true. Yeah.
So it's
should.
like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much of it are we going to trust? So what I think that we do is like we use other accounts of the time to decide like if there was this big miraculous event that had happened at the time in other types of literature, you would see people
There's
speak
only
about
one historical reference, a Jewish Roman writer named Josephus, who wrote about contemporary Jesus.
And
it's
what was
only-
he saying?
It's a very passing mention. It basically describes him as kind of running a cult. Or
I would belittle him too
When did he write that?
contemporary. So
Oh, okay.
at the time.
his life, yeah.
Yeah, look, bottom line is what is the central thesis of the Bible? Okay, it's what I would call the Constantine trade-off. What he said was, you have to listen to the people in power, okay?
Yeah.
What was the thing that they ate from that got them kicked out of Eden? The tree of knowledge.
Yeah.
So do not get any knowledge that is bad. Do not ever disobey. If you disobey, you're Satan. What was the number one problem with Satan? He disobeyed.
Yeah.
Okay? So do not do that. Don't have free agency. Don't make any of your own decisions. But we love you. We forgive you. And when you die, oh my God, you're going to get everything. The rich are going to get nothing, and the poor are going to get everything.
Man, when you put it like that, you kind of make it seem like it feel like it was okay for Eve to listen to Satan. Because if it's a tree of knowledge and you're telling her you can't get any of this information, but somebody comes along and goes, look, they're keeping things from you that you actually need to know, and she goes to eat the apple, is she wrong?
So there's a whole group of people who call themselves witches and warlocks, I think, which is hilarious. And the reason they do is not because they believe in witches and warlocks, but because what they're saying is Eve was right. Like, we should eat from the tree of knowledge. We should know about nature. We should know about ourselves. We shouldn't stop learning. Religion is wrong. So, but what I'm a little worried about that, because religious folks take it so literally, right? They think, oh, those are actual witches and warlocks,
Yeah.
right? And Satan is real, and these guys are saying super dangerous things. Get back to obeying, right? So put religion out of it, forget Satan, God, etc. All I'm saying is in politics and everything else, don't obey. Like, obeying gets you nothing but put down at the bottom of the pyramid, and the guy at the top gets everything. That's the whole point of obeying. You and I talked about it in regards to the Democratic Party.
Yep.
What did they tell you? It wasn't about winning against Trump.
Right.
It was about obeying Biden.
That's right.
And you have to stop believing your lying eyes and ears and just obey the people in power.
Did you see Corinne Jean-Pierre's statement when she put out her statement about how she's leaving the Democratic Party and she's independent now? Her exact words was, we have to stop obeying. She used the language, I can't remember what the exact quote was, but she said we have to stop obeying like we did in the past. I'm like, obeying? If your mind state was ever that, you were with the wrong people.
But Charlamagne, look, you guys are doing great. We've done great over the course of these 20 years with our network. But when it comes to mainstream media, they hate me, man. You know, I think I might have told you this the last time. If I was an XFL player, you remember the old guy, he had the "he hate me" on his back, right? That's me. So I was just talking to Dan Abrams about it in the last podcast I did. I'm banned on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Why?
Banned? Like, you know, you're officially banned.
Yeah, so when I ran for president, we hired like the top PR guy who's the best at getting on cable news. He's like, don't pay me. CNN, MSNBC, hard ban. You're not allowed on. Fox News, I'm not positive about. But then when Jesse Waters books me, I get unbooked 2 hours later.
Wow.
I've been booked and unbooked on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News a dozen times.
Wow.
I got to a point where I was like, go check with your manager. Like, don't bother.
Why do you think? Why do you think that is?
Because I tell people, don't obey. Don't obey, okay?
What if they obey you though?
That's a good idea.
That's what Corinne Jean-Pierre just said. We need to be clear-eyed and questioning rather than blindly loyal and obedient as we may have been in the past. My God, yo.
But you know why she says that?
She's out of power.
Because well, that's also true.
Exactly.
She got a book coming out.
Exactly.
Just like Tapper.
But because she used to blindly obey. And that was the culture. Like in the Democratic Party, if you don't blindly obey, you're a heretic. You love Trump. We're going to smear you. We're going to say, I mean.
Yeah.
So why should we listen to any of those people now?
Jake, we went through it. Charlamagne and I went through
Oh,
it.
he knows.
It was,
Yeah,
oh yeah, you know. I mean, you probably went through the same thing. It's just the idea of being at all critical of the party. There's just this slew of epithets that they're throwing your direction. They're making you all, radioactive. And
By the way, I didn't even know I was part of the party. Just because I voted Democrat a few times, I didn't know I was a part of the party. I actually got pissed off yesterday when I was voting for New Jersey primary governor, and they was like, you have to check one of these 2 boxes. And it just said Democrat or Republican. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Why? What does that even matter? I just want to vote.
yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the majority of the country is independent now, right?
They didn't even have that as an option.
I know.
It's a primary.
Meaning they identify as it, or they're
But what does it
registered.
matter?
They
Vote
identify.
one
Yeah.
primary or the other.
Not in California, but yeah, in New
Really?
Jersey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because they're saying if you're a Democrat, you get to vote in the Democratic primary. If you're an independent, well, you're not a Democrat, so you don't get.
So
to
you
vote
don't get to vote.
primary. So that one's a little bit more
Oh,
understandable.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the primary situation.
Got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and I'm teasing, but like, what do you do in those circumstances if like you're preaching this message of do not obey, which I do agree with you, by the way. So are you essentially like, hey, when you guys are disseminating information, are you going, hey, check us, like, make sure that what we're saying is something that you agree with, and if you don't agree with it, like, are you promoting that to your audience? Do you feel like that
no.
ethos is important?
No, I'm Turkish. I'm in charge. Okay. No, seriously.
We came first.
I know it sounds like a silly question, but like,
It's not at all.
I love the ethos, but it is a tricky position that you're in because I imagine the way that you feel about the world, you think would benefit the most people, which is probably not dissimilar to most journalists or political figures. So we're in this tricky situation where you're like, fuck, if you trust me, I think the world will be better. But at the same time, don't blindly trust me.
No, actually, it's kind of easy.
Okay.
We've been saying it from day one. Don't trust us. Go verify.
I love it.
Okay?
Love it.
And so the reason is, I already looked it up.
Yeah.
I know
So-
that if
so
you
you'll
look it
also
up,
see it. You have
you'll also
confidence
see
in
it,
that.
And then you'll
Got it.
say, oh, they were right, and then you
Yeah.
have more trust in them.
But you're
Right.
banking on
You know
your
what's-
audience to do something that most people don't do, and that's research.
That's true, and then it came back to bite us. So which I'll tell
really?
you about in a second. But first, I love Grok. You know the thing that Elon
Yes,
did?
yes.
The reason I love Grok is because I look things up first.
Immediately.
Right? And then I put it on X, and then the right wing's like, oh, yeah, Grok, is this true?
Oh, wait a minute. You'll grok before you post.
No, I'll just look it up.
Got
I
it,
don't
got
need
it, got
Grok.
it, got it.
I
What the
already
fuck is
know it.
Grok?
It's
I thought you said
ChatGPT.
Grunk. I was like, why would you trust Grunk? I was like, Grunk?
For fact-checking
Yo,
Grok?
What is Grok?
It's ChatGPT for Twitter.
Got you. Okay.
Okay, so I have like a 98% record on Grok.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, just look it up. Just
Yeah.
look it up, right?
Yeah.
Just stop bullshitting people.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it. But how did it backfire? Well, we taught people to disobey so much that our own host then turned on us in 18 different ways. Okay, so this guy Dave Rubin left the network, and he's gay and liberal and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He leaves. He first does something that doesn't work, and then he's looking for work, and some conservative probably came by and offered him a ton of cash, and all of a sudden he's a right winger. And he's like, oh, Young Turks did this, and Young Turks are terrible, and they do that. And I'm like, that's the first time it happened. I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Like, nothing he's saying is true.
So these
He's just
are
making
big
it up.
shots. You're saying that this person is inauthentically creating content here.
I know.
Doing it
comes
for the
as a
bag.
shock.
That's what it comes.
Yeah, so that was Dave Rubin. Then another host, Jimmy
You think
Dore
he's
left.
actually gay?
I didn't check. I don't know. That's his business, not my business.
He said, I didn't check.
No, his husband also worked with us. So
His husband also. So you verified it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Young Jerks.
that's a different thing. A different thing. Okay, that's led by Chunky Yogurt.
That's how you get the chunky yogurt out. Jerk that motherfucker.
Okay, so you have people that start to leave.
Yeah, so then Jimmy Dore leaves. He says something mean, etc. Now we got what I would call the radical left that attacks us. Okay, so we said disobey, and they listen. So they're like, okay, now we're disobeying you, and we think, and I don't put down any rules. I just say there's three. Okay, well let me
What do you
amend
call
that.
disobedience?
Yeah. Is it possible that they just have a difference of
Yeah,
opinion
like
and
what's
they might have some merit to their opinion?
Yeah, like what is disobedience?
Yeah, no chance. Okay, no, seriously, we have three rules at TYT, okay?
Yeah.
One is no lies. I don't care if you think it's gonna match your ideology, you're not allowed to play around with the facts,
Yeah.
okay? Number two is no call for violence, nothing physical. Like we go protest, we're super loud, but we're always peaceful, civil disobedience, do it the right way, the civil rights way, okay? And number 3 is don't talk shit publicly about your fellow TYT hosts and staff, okay?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? So what do they start doing? So they disagree with me. No problem. We have like 30 hosts. Well, all of them disagree with me to some degree, right?
Good.
And some of them disagree a lot. So we have people who are very far left. We got people who are pretty centrist, and we got the whole left wing covered.
Great.
Right? So that's perfect. And we have fights like crazy. We got Ben Glebe, who's pro-Israel. Me and him yell at each other on air. We got Jordan and a whole bunch of other guys who are far left on some issues like transports and stuff. And we yell at each other, but we're good. We go on to the next story and we do it and we have fun and we laugh.
This is good.
It's all good, right? Some people are like, no, you're not allowed to disagree on transports. Well, what does that mean? I'm not allowed to disagree. They're like, no, the correct position is that if you care about vulnerable communities and trans people, you must say that they should be allowed to play professional sports.
Nah, fuck out of here.
And if you don't, you're being disobedient, and they will say things like, oh, well, that's because you weren't educated. There's some books, you should read these books, right? And if you read those books, you would know that we were right. And so, you should apologize to us for disagreeing with us. I'm like, no, I'm not going to apologize to you for disagreeing. What are you, nuts?
Yeah.
So then the other day I had to say, she's just a contractor. She wasn't an employee or anything, but she was one of our hosts. She'd come on regularly. I liked her. And we had a good personal relationship and stuff. And we disagree over the tiniest things like transports. She comes out there and starts making videos about, Cenk's a bitch, and he's so dumb. And I'm like, what are you doing? And one of the other hosts had attacked her years ago, right? And that was Jimmy. And I was like, Jimmy, you're not allowed to do that shit, okay? I will take you off the fucking air if you say one more thing about Francesca, right? Sam Cedar used to be part of the General Network, not an employee, but was related in some way. He used to hit Jimmy, and I stopped him from coming on air because I'm like, guys, just say your opinion. Right. You don't have to say the other guy's a dirtbag, right? You can say the other guy's 100% wrong, right?
But don't talk about it.
Insult each other.
But don't insult me personally.
Yeah.
And so now, no, radical left hates me. And it's not radical as in far left. Yes, some of them are far left. But now a lot of the old moderates, the ones who thought Biden was young and dynamic and Kamala was a perfect candidate and Hillary couldn't lose, they've become radical. Because they'll be like, oh, if you say Trump was right to not attack Iran, you say Trump was right, I fucking hate you. You're a heretic and you're canceled, okay? And I'm like, what? Wait, we don't want to attack Iran.
Yeah.
Right? He said don't attack Iran. Why is that wrong to agree with him on that?
Have you studied what happens to...
No, that empowers him. Have you talked to the right wing? They hate that I talk to the right wing. They hate it. They're like, oh, no, if you go on there, you just have to yell at him. I can't believe you went on Tim Pool or Patrick Bet-David or Charlie Kirk. Yeah. And, you're supposed to call him a Nazi and a racist. And if you don't, they think that all 71 million people that voted for Trump are all racist.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, guys. A lot of them at the outer edges, the radical right are, right? But the ones closer to us, a lot of them voted for Bernie earlier.
You know what's so crazy? I hate, people like to say, it was never about the price of eggs. I'm like, stop saying that as this broad generalization.
Yeah.
Because it's nuanced. To some people, it was about the price of eggs. To other people, it might have been about, racism and white supremacy. To other people, it might have been about immigration. Everybody had different reasons. Don't just say, hey, it was never about the price of eggs. All of y'all are racist. Like, what?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense, yep.
All right, let's take a break from this conversation with my man Cenk and have an honest conversation about genes, okay? Are you looking for the perfect gene? Well, if you're looking for the perfect gene, then that's what I'm about to tell you about. The perfect gene. They have redefined what genes can be, okay? No more crushed nuts or saggy diaper butts. Just pure, soft, stretchy perfection. Life's too short for denim that fights you every step of the way. That's why you're chafing now, okay? These genes move with you, whether you're chasing kids, tackling chores, or just cooling out, man. Over 30,000 men have rated the perfect gene 5 stars because you should never have to sacrifice comfort for style. Imagine denim so stretchy, it's yoga ready if you want it to be, okay? Still fly enough to turn heads, all right, but comfy enough that you'll forget you're even wearing them. You'll feel like you're walking around free balling, until somebody compliments you. You'd be like, oh, I like your jeans. And you'd be like, wow. The perfect jean has 6 fits, a size range from 26 to 50-inch waist, and lengths up to 38, giving you 5,000 plus ways to find your perfect match. At The Perfect Jean, you never have to force yourself to make jeans work with the body that you got. Okay, they've got the perfect lineup to keep you looking sharp and staying fresh, including buttery soft tees that make your arms and chest pop, but still hide that post-beer garden belly, comfort shorts that give your thighs the liberty they deserve, and khakis that are office approved but feel like joggers. Listen to me. For all you men out there that want to show shape, okay? Don't let the ladies be the only ones out there showing off their figures this summer, all right? Ladies like to see us too. You see me, look how thick I am, all right? I got curves in all the right places, okay? So if you want to have curves in all the right places or look like you got them in all the right places, you need The Perfect Jean. For a limited time, Brilliant Idiot listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjean.nyc or Google The Perfect Jean and use code IDIOTS15 for 15% off. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code IDIOTS15. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Well, tell them The Brilliant Idiots. And please support our show and tell them that The Brilliant Idiots sent you, okay? Fuck your khakis. Go get The Perfect Jean, all right?
Have you heard, you see what happens to people who like are part of a cult when it gets exposed? Do you see what they do? The logical conclusion would be that they leave the cult. But what actually happens is they become more devout. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what you're describing with the people who are like, Hillary's going to do it, and then Biden is young and virile, and Kamala's the perfect candidate. Instead of going, ooh, maybe we're being a little bit misled here and these weren't the perfect people to run, they're going, no, anybody who can't see this is a heretic. And
100%.
This is the one true way.
So
because it's embarrassing to acknowledge that you are wrong.
So the perfect example is actually related to you.
Nice.
Yeah, because Buttigieg came and talked to you, right?
Yes.
And
loved it.
The radical moderates were like, fuck Buttigieg. I'm like, wait. Andrew's a lifelong Democrat.
The radical moderates is such a funny term.
But it's true.
Do we even have moderates anymore?
I mean, I don't know what they are.
The majority of us are moderate, and I think that we just don't have a place. And I think that we're like labeled that way by people who don't really understand or can't explain something that they're seeing that they actually might like. So Buttigieg comes on and has maybe the biggest interview of his career, and it's this great conversation, and they're forced to reckon with this idea of, wait a minute, did I misunderstand who Andrew and his crew was? Did I
misunderstand who Pete was, too?
Who Pete was? Did I just read a bunch of headlines about someone I don't really know and form an opinion about him? And rather than just admitting that I was wrong about someone who I've never really indulged in, I'm just going to go, this is fucked up because I don't want to look at myself.
But I agree
and that's a human thing. Like, I have a lot of empathy for people who have those feelings. Like, I think, Bernie comes on and eventually you see the whole media apparatus starting to soften, and there's no acknowledgement that they maybe painted us in a way that was unfair. They just start shifting the way that they cover the stories.
Well, I think some people
forget,
and
that's
Andrew,
as close as they'll get.
I think some people forget you're a comedian.
Right.
Some people forget satire. Very smart guy politically. But, if you're on here with some shades and a flag draped over you yelling MAGA.
And that's the only clip you
Exactly.
see. Of course.
Exactly.
That's why I go, listen, I make the decision to say certain things. I make the decision to be in front of camera knowing it can be clipped out of context. So I have to be accountable for how people could misinterpret things. There was this whole fucking article that this thing happened where I was talking to 2 other comedians on trigonometry, right? And I'm doing the most reductive argument ever about they're trying to go, what's happening with the parties and what's happening with Trump and males, and everybody's trying to understand the shit. And I'm like, dude, the parties switch their priorities all the time. When I was a kid, Clinton was cool, he's getting some pussy, and the Republicans were like, don't listen to rock music, it's bad. And now the Democrats are like, don't say those no-no words, that's bad. And then Trump got 3 baby mamas. I'm being purposely reductive, right? And I saw actual journalists look at it and just be like, what a stupid reason to vote for Trump. And I'm like, yeah, I'm making it stupid. I'm trying to show you how hypocritical the parties are going, why did people leave us? It's like, no, you've shifted your priorities and people haven't changed who they are. But this is whatever, this is the...
I want to ask you something
about
what
happens in media.
What is considered far left now? Because to me, it seems like the AOCs of the world, the Bernie Sanders, they seem like the moderates. Because they're only speaking common sense stuff that people want. Free healthcare, free education, more food in your pocket. You want to keep the country safe. That's what everybody wants at the end of the day. So what is considered far left? The transports thing?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
So, so first let's break down moderate, because that's going to inform our discussion of far left, right?
Okay.
So why is moderate a bad word? Wait a minute. Most of the country is by definition moderate, right? That's the whole point. If you're in about 2/3 of the country is in the center, so you call them centrist or moderate. So moderate became a dirty word because of what mainstream media did. Mainstream media would take radical corporatists like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and every Republican in the Senate, and they'd call them moderates. But they weren't moderate at all. So Joe Manchin was against paid family leave. Paid family leave's at 84%, so he's in the 16%. He's a radical who only serves as donors, but CNN and New York Times called him a moderate every single time. So the most corporate, the most corrupt politicians were labeled by the New York Times and CNN as moderates.
Wow.
So then moderate became a dirty word when there's no reason for moderate to be a dirty word. That's the majority of the country, right? So then what's right and left if...
Real quick before we move on, I also think there's something where people who have a little bit more passionate or extreme beliefs view politics in a good and evil scenario. So being moderate about good and evil is evil to them.
Yeah. See, that goes to the radical nature.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because radical is not about a part of the political spectrum. It's about a way of thinking.
Yes.
And the two huge parts of being radical is no dissent is allowed.
Because
you must agree with the ideology 100%. That's why transports become such a huge thing. It's not that it's like 10 or 20% of your ideology. It's that even 1% disagreement is not allowed by radicals, right?
And yes, because
which is crazy because they only make up 1% of the population. Trans people.
My theory on the transports thing is that like it's the last rung of the ladder, and I think this conversation is like just so.
I'm
old.
Exhausted.
Like,
I'm so
no, not this specific one, but like wokeness. I think is done. Like anybody raging against woke culture now that like Trump is in office, it's like you're no longer like rebelling against the system. You're doing propaganda for the machine. So I'm like, it's just kind of annoying. But I understood as we got there, and I think what the transports thing was like. The first rung of the ladder was calling Hispanic people Latinx. And like, if you have any Latin friends, none of them want to be called Latinx, but you got a bunch of white people in Ivy League schools that are going, yo, if you don't do that, you're a racist or you're a bigot. And you're like, that's funny because all my Mexican homies don't even know what the fuck Latinx is. Right?
100%.
So you go, that's weird, but I'm being called a racist or a bigot. And then you go up another rung. And then there's another thing that doesn't really seem like it makes common sense, but you still get called a racist or a bigot or insensitive. And then you get to the top rung and you're just looking for some proof that you're not the weirdo, that your line of thinking is reasonable. And I think when you have the most like drastic scenario, which is like, is it okay if like a person born as a male is doing an MMA match with a person born as a female? And you go, I don't think that that's fair. And they go, what are you, a bigot? You go, okay, you're the one that's a little bit delusional here.
Exactly.
So I don't
That's
even
the
think,
point I got to.
I don't think that they actually care about the trans issue as much as they care about proving to these people that are calling them a racist or a bigot for their ideas that they're the ones that are irrational.
How did we get
It's like a placeholder for normalcy.
How did we get here?
Virtue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saying I'm more pure than you.
Yeah.
And that's and the other rule.
And we all want purity. And the only way we can get that is through Jesus Christ.
Do we really want purity? Like seriously, do we really want purity? I don't think we want purity. We just want something to make sense. Don't make me feel stupid.
We don't want to feel gaslit, I think is the term that the kids use. Yeah.
You know, Andrew's kidding because that's what radicals want. They want purity. Like you're not allowed, you have to be, and radical religious people are the same way. You're not allowed to disagree with radical Islam. Why? Who made you Allah? Right?
Yeah.
Why can't I interpret the Quran any way I want? Why do you get to, or why are you the only one who gets to interpret the Quran? Same thing with radical Christians, right? Oh, you have to be more hardcore and you have to be in favor of this and that and we have to go blow up Israel and whatever when Jesus comes. I'm like, no, you made that up in the 1970s in some stupid books that were written here in America. That's not true at all. But the radicals always claim they're the most pure. They're the only ones who really represent their side. So what happened to the left? Bernie's coalition kind of split into two. There was the far left that are like, you disagree at all. Transports, for a while they were saying there's no crime in any of the big cities. Between 2019 and 2023.
I remember.
And I was like, you guys are nuts. Here's the crime statistics. They're going up. Here's people in Oakland who are super fucking pissed, right?
Yeah.
But I even hate the opposite. The people that'll tell you that they don't live in these cities, but they'll tell us crime is down. But we have the lived experience, but they're showing us stats saying, no, look, crime is actually down.
And then they just stop prosecuting crime so they can be like, no, see, it's down. They just changed the rules.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, man, nobody was more pissed about police abuse than Young Turks were, right? Benjamin Crump was amazing. He came on the show and said, if it wasn't for you guys, Trayvon Martin would have never been a national story, right? Because we pounded that. We're like, what the fuck did that guy kill that kid for, right? Tamir Rice in Cleveland, they shoot him in 2 seconds flat. 12 years old, he's got a toy gun in the park, right? Yeah. So we're like, don't shoot that fast. Retrain the cops. Their lives are not less expensive, they're more expensive. Like if it's a tough job, it's because you're supposed to pause before you shoot, right? And stop doing stop and frisk on only blacks and Latinos. So we had really reasonable requests.
You know, I don't know.
Shut the fuck up.
It's a numbers game, guys. It's a numbers game. You know?
Nowadays, you got to do them on guys that look like Andrew.
Yo, it's true. Hey, listen, you got
Especially at large environments with a lot of people. Crowded environments.
You see someone climbing a roof at a Trump rally. Stop and frisk.
Yeah. So that's what we asked for. Then what did they pass in California and New York and stuff? They came in and they're like, all right, let's turn these felonies into misdemeanors. I'm like, who asked for that?
Yeah, it's
Who the fuck asked for that? One of them is like domestic assault. I'm like, wait, what's going on? Why is that a misdemeanor all of a sudden, right? We didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, no, that's it. You're a right winger. I'm not a right winger. We never fucking asked for this. No one asked for it. And so then they get super mad about that. So anytime you disagree, even on the most reasonable things, they lose it. They get so mad.
Well,
so I'm like, all right, I don't need these guys. These guys are toxic, etc. Let's take the economically populist part of Bernie, right?
Yes.
And like
Class
pay family
issue.
leave, Medicaid,
Class issue.
like lower
Workers'
drug
rights.
prices, higher wages, lower housing prices,
Simple.
anti-war, get money out of politics. All these poll
Yes.
at 65% or higher. And I said, why don't we do something crazy like run on our most popular policies?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's why Bernie seems like the middle now, because people are like, wait a minute. If you just take his economic policies, which, by the way, that's all Bernie ever had, right? That other stuff got put onto him
I think I think social issues were a concern for him.
in 2020. In 2016,
okay, fair enough,
he
fair
was
enough.
all economics,
Yeah.
all about class.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yo, I say it all the time, man. Every American, I don't care what your race is, sexuality, gender, two things you care about. Having more money in your pocket and being safe.
That's it.
That's it.
Right
How
there.
can you make me feel that way?
Yeah. And-
Stop and frisk.
Yeah.
In some cases, we just wanted to be more fair. Chris had a great idea. Chris was like, yo, stop everybody.
Yeah.
No, hit a certain number of white people every day.
Quotas.
I'm fine with that.
No, look.
Quotas.
I'm fine with that.
Look, it's so, like,
You all
do it
close
based
on
on
that?
action,
Obviously,
not
it's
on looks.
It's ridiculous.
Right? So, like, if you're going through an airport and some guy's got a sweaty mustache on and he's all nervous as shit, stop and frisk him, right? But I don't care if he's white or black or Muslim or Jewish, just based on how he's acting, right?
Yeah.
If you know he's in a gang, okay, et cetera,
But
right?
that still kind of looks, though.
That is
If he's just sweaty in the airport, he might be running to catch his flight.
Yeah, and I get sweaty, I get it, but at least there's a basis for it.
You're getting stopped, buddy. Oh, yeah. You don't worry about it. They got you down. Put on a little blazer, think you're white. This guy's adorable. Back to TSA.
But that's exactly my point too. When the far left, radical left, whatever, is like, oh no, you're hurting vulnerable communities. I'm like, bitch, I'm Muslim, okay? Like, don't talk to me about vulnerable communities. But it doesn't mean that the most radical answer is the correct answer.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So they go and have a protest for the Palestinians in DC a couple months ago. I'm like, oh great, I love it. You know, stand up for them. Some guy burns an American flag and then another guy writes Hamas on a statue. I'm like, fuck. We're trying to get America to love Palestinians,
Right.
so they protect Palestinians.
Yeah.
This is
You're allowed to burn the flag, but it's super dumb.
Question.
Right?
Question.
Don't write Hamas on a fucking statue. Are you crazy?
Well,
the most radical answer isn't the correct answer.
But not only that, what was that thing called where the FBI was putting their own people at these protests? COINTELPRO. It's like when you see what happens, you see at that rally, or you see what happens at the protests in LA, and it's like The FBI used to have to put their people into these protests to do these things so that they could completely dismantle the protests.
Agitators.
Yeah, agitators. He goes, now people are doing it for the FBI. The FBI is just sitting back there going like, oh, these fucking idiots, we don't even have to get up today. Because you're finding a way to discredit the whole movement, which has a lot of value.
Unless the agitators coming from outside of the country.
Say that again?
That is true.
Wait, say that again?
Unless the agitator is no longer the FBI and it's coming from outside of the country.
I mean,
you're saying like
Russia?
China, Russia.
Russia, yeah.
Got it.
But listen, isn't it up to that crowd, like the rest of the Muslims that were there? Shouldn't they denounce them and that behavior loudly, publicly?
So, in fact,
I thought about this actually a little bit, which is like, I think what's difficult, and I'm saying this as a complete outsider as a white guy, but I imagine that within the black community, there are certain things that might happen that the black community looks at and they're like, oh, this is fucked up. It might make us look bad. But if we are out here vocalizing it, some fucking dude on Fox News is going to go, see, look, even black people are fed up with black people. And there might be concern that like your own discomfort with a situation will be used against your community to like label in a way.
I can see that.
So I think sometimes it's harder for communities that are trying to fight for their own rights to acknowledge things that are happening that they disapprove of.
So, Andrew, that's definitely right, and I get where that comes from.
Yeah.
But even though that instinct is understandable, it's wrong.
I agree with you. I'm more empathizing why there's like I have so many Jewish friends, like literally every one of my Jewish friends right now, they might not vocalize it, but they're like, dude, BB's fucking insane. This guy's got to go.
They were saying that before October 7th.
I know, exactly. And I think now they're feeling a lot of this criticism. They're like, I want to say it out loud, but I don't know how to say it. And I would go, no, you need to say it because otherwise people are going to think that you're supporting what's going on.
Right.
Yes.
But they're terrified. But that if they say it, it looks like they're going to be used as like a bargaining chip and trying to discredit the movement. So I just have empathy for people who are scared to do it, but I agree with you. It's the right thing to do and it's the courageous thing to do.
So let me connect all those things. So like, if you're Muslim, you're asked to denounce every terrorist every single time, right? Okay, do you have to denounce Hamas and Hezbollah and Ahmed and Mehmed and everybody, right? But if you say to someone Jewish, now you have to denounce Netanyahu, they're like, anti-Semite. How dare you? I don't speak for all Jews, etc.
You can't.
Okay, now that's true.
But that wasn't the case before October 7th, though.
Half the country is protesting against the guy. Like,
So, like, if I said to Jewish people, you got to denounce Israel, right? They would say that was the most anti-Semitic thing in the whole wide world. I can't believe that. But then if a Muslim does a terrorist attack, they say, now you have to denounce him. Why do I have to denounce him if you don't have to denounce Israel doing a genocide?
Well, they would argue it's not a terrorist attack.
I
happen to disagree with them, but I'm just saying what the argument.
I would argue murdering 17,000 children is.
But that would be the argument.
He's saying that would be the argument they're going to make, not justifying the position.
So, but my point isn't they have to denounce Israel, right?
It is more beneficial for the movement and is more beneficial for living in a civil society when you can acknowledge things that are beneath your baseline for humanity.
Yeah. So, for example, Hamas goes and does October 7th. That's so easy to denounce.
Absolutely.
Right? And I don't want to be associated with October 7th. That was terrible. They did barbaric things. Yeah. I don't want people thinking that that's what Muslims do. So I want to denounce it.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And if Turkey was doing a genocide or America's doing a genocide, I would denounce it, right? And in fact, I already lived it because we did Iraq. We killed hundreds of thousands of people. And what did I do from day one, before day one?
Yeah.
We were one of only two national shows, Young Turks been on forever, right? Yeah. Saying, don't go in. Admiral Akbar, it's a trap, all right?
It took you guys a little bit to acknowledge Armenia.
Yes, including me. I agree.
Yeah, it took a little bit. You know,
that's what happens.
Just saying, maybe you got to give them a few years.
No, but Andrew's right.
And then they'll be able to acknowledge it.
Because and I empathize with Jewish folks completely because of that, right? Like you tell a Turkish person who's pro Bernie Sanders, super progressive, how about the Kurds? Like, oh no, fuck no, right? They're terrorists, etc. Right?
Hard to,
how about the Armenian genocide? Oh no way, we're not going to recognize that, right? So I'm asking people to get outside of your comfort zone and say, yeah, if a Muslim does it, it's bad. If a Jew does it, it's bad. If a Christian does it, it's bad. If it's bad, right?
Well,
That is bad.
Yeah, the example you gave is great because, and me and Chris was talking about this the other day. It's like, when 9/11 happened, right, and America did what it did, it was declared an act of war.
Yeah.
So that's how people in Israel look at it. They look at it, we're at war with Gaza. They're not looking at it as this is a genocide. All of these innocent kids and women and civilians are getting killed.
I think that's what I got to say with this one thing, because a lot of people don't understand that others don't think like them, right? They have a different perspective, and it's so hard for people to grasp that. So then they assume that the other side is evil, right? So they say like, oh, the Israelis are evil. The Israelis aren't evil. It's just a power dynamic. And in the way that it developed, the people inside Israel genuinely believe that they're at war and that if they give the Palestinians any rights and if they stop bombing them, they're all going to die, right? It's not true. They're totally wrong, right? But they genuinely believe that. So that's why they're doing it, not because they're like, whoa, let's kill more Muslims, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't try to stop them. You try to stop them because they're wrong, right? But you don't have to do it while hating them. Because once we start hating one another, the war never ends.
Yeah, everything becomes justified.
And how did we look? One more thing.
But to that point, to the point you just made, it is very hard to not hate somebody if you see them killing a bunch of innocent women, children,
of course,
and just people.
Yeah,
right?
and so, but that's why.
And real quick, I think what Jewish people, or at least Israeli people, would say in that moment would be like, okay, so then how do we make sure that we're safe? They're like, I don't like Bibi. I don't like this curtain cover. I don't like the settlers. I don't like the extreme right wing. I think it's awful what's happening on the West Bank. Like, but if we just stop right now, do you really think that they're not going to keep bombing us? And
yes.
and you would say yes,
100%.
And they would say, which I'm sure you've had these conversations. They would say, I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll be honest, I've been in these conversations where I'm like, I don't know what they would do. I would hope.
You're positive that Hamas or any type of terrorist organization would stop going after Israel if Israel ceasefire now?
Yeah, no, hold on. Let me explain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every time that there's a peace deal, you negotiate with an enemy. And an enemy that's usually killed a lot of your people and you've killed a lot of their people, so you fucking hate them, right? You don't get to negotiate with friends, right? So is it possible to end the cycle of hatred? Yes. It's happened 1,000 times throughout history. And I want to tell you about the civil rights movement and how we broke it here in America. But the best example is Israel itself. It made a peace deal with its worst enemy, Egypt, right? And Egypt and Israel had gone into several wars, and Egypt led all the Arab countries to attack Israel, right? So they were Hamas times 1,000 in that sense, right? And Hamas has almost no power. The most they could do is October 7th, right? Which is already terrible.
It's a lot, yeah.
But back then in 67 and 73, Israel was legitimately worried they were going to get wiped off the face of the earth by these fucking Egyptians who keep attacking, and they're going to kill us all. And they did a peace deal, 0 attacks since then. 0, right?
By Egypt.
By Egypt.
Yeah.
Peace deals work. Are they magic? They work perfectly every time? No. But do they generally work? Yes. Did Israel already make a peace deal that's 1,000 times bigger than the one that they're currently contemplating? Yes. Did it work? Yes.
I think.
Right? So
I don't know. I think
Let the Jewish man talk. Let the Jew go.
I think the difference is the Egyptians weren't fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for dominance within the region. But the Palestinians feel, as a Jew, I got to admit it, rightfully, we don't have anything. We have to keep fighting.
Egypt still had Egypt.
Hold on, but think about that. So my idea, my solution is easy. You do a deal.
Make it Turkey. Bring back the Ottoman Empire. Everybody was happy during the Ottoman Empire, right? Isn't that what they tell us?
Right. But we would know a thing or two about it because we used to occupy Palestine.
That's right. You
And
guys
we
were
used to
the
occupy
OGs.
Israel. That's right.
You sold it to the Israelis. That's really your fault.
Yeah. Well,
You sold some land.
But this is what I would say to my Jewish friends, right? So Turkey, the Ottoman Empire did the Armenian Genocide, right? Killed tons and tons of Armenians, right? Way more than the Palestinians killed in Gaza right now, right? So then did the Armenians at that time hate us? Of course they hated us. We just fucking butchered them. Yeah. Of course they hated us, right? If you had given Armenian rebels at the time that you could call terrorists or rebels or freedom fighters, depending on your perspective, if you gave them a button and said, wipe all Turks off the face of the earth, my guess is 99 out of 100 of those guys would have pressed the button, right? So then the Turks could say, well, I can't give up any sovereignty to the Armenians. Right. They'd kill us all. And they would have, right? But that's because you butchered them. That's because you can't. So in this case, the Palestinians have been occupied for 58 years.
Right.
How long does it take? No, it's, look, I got to be honest. It's deeply racist to say, and I'll say it, to say that Muslims cannot control themselves. Palestinians.
Who's saying that?
Israelis.
Okay.
Israelis say if we give them a state, That's it. They're going to bomb us.
Well,
They're violent savages. Violent savages.
Hold on 1 second.
Hey, you're the one occupying them. You're the one killing them.
That's fair, but nobody in this room is saying that.
No,
That's
no
why I
one
just
in
want to
this
make sure. Like, so what I think there is like one. I think there's one little thing here that is probably important to bring up, which is like there are at least one other country that seems to be involved financially and militarily in this circumstance, in terms of the defense of the Palestinian people, that you could make the argument that they really care about their sovereignty and their protection.
Talking about Iran.
Iran?
Yeah, Iran.
Okay.
So and it's like if Iran was like, okay, I'm not going to fund anything else and or Qatar or whatever, and you could be 100% right. What I'm saying is the average person in Israel that's against Bibi, hates what's happening, wants peace. Are they wrong to assume that war would potentially continue even if there was a peace deal? Are they
definitely wrong? They're definitely wrong.
Really? Okay.
So because they say, okay, look, we've kept these 5.5 million people as hostages basically for 58 years. We've given them no rights. And by the way, anytime we want, we could apparently come in and destroy their entire living area. We could starve them. We could do whatever we want. We are their.
It's fair to call it apartheid.
It's at a minimum apartheid, right?
Right.
And then they're like, I can't believe they're fighting back.
Right.
Okay, my precondition. Hold on, my precondition for letting you go is that you have to love me and you have to all stop fighting me forever and ever and ever. Even though I still keep you as prisoner.
Nobody.
And I can make you no goddamn promises. And I keep taking more of your land in the West Bank. Now I'm going to take all of Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
And you don't love me enough. Now fuck off.
No
way. No way.
I think you're making a compelling argument. It's not addressing what I'm presenting though.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is in this idyllic scenario that you have described, which is just like, let them have their sovereignty, let them have their agency and their rights in their own country, the place where they go, right?
Yeah.
Given the history and the hatred that exists and other countries that are stoking the fire because
why are they stoking the fire?
Well, now we're going to get into a geopolitical discussion about what's happening with other Arab states and Israel, and are some of these actions meant to fracture relations between Israel and Saudi or Israel and the Emiratis? Like we can't act like geopolitical discussions are. It seems like I'm listen. You rolling your eyes makes me at least feel in this moment that you think that I'm defending the actions. I'm not defending the actions at all. What I'm trying to get us to understand is it's not as simple as, hey guys, can you just agree on this ceasefire and then go your separate ways?
No, but guys, under that, you would never get a peace
Let me
deal.
ask you a question.
You would never get one.
Let me ask you a question.
And why would you never get one? I can't trust those motherfucking Arabs and Muslims.
Are
I
American-
can't trust them. They're violent. They're savage.
You know what you're not factoring in? You're not factoring in plain old human emotions. Because how do you forgive and forget?
Well, how do the Palestinians
so much blood is shed?
forget
I'm
the
talking
monstrous
about
actions of
both
Israel?
sides. How do both sides just forgive and forget when so much
Because that's
blood
what
is
happens
shed?
in every peace deal. In the Civil War, we killed 600,000 people, our South and North.
But there's no peace.
And the North came in and just
But there's no peace, really.
No, and then no, but hold on. So that
We learned to be a little civil,
right.
but there's really no peace. Eventually,
You say Japan is an ally now, a close
Japan is
ally.
an ally. Germany,
Germany.
is an ally. Egypt and Israel are.
But there was-
allies.
But is that because everybody that was around to remember has died out?
Also,
but that didn't
also
happen
there
with
was
Israel
there was there was
But that's
accountability
partly
for
true.
actions. Like there was court hearings and there was punishments held for the people that were in power. This is a different thing. Like if you want a process, there has to be some accountability and some agency.
Well, there's also a Marshall Plan, and there was also McCarthy in Japan. And that's, as much as I hate to admit this, the one thing I think Trump might have right is when he does that ridiculous AI video of a gleaming new Gaza with that's what it's going to take is throwing fucking money at this shit.
Guys, the solutions already exist. The 53 Arab state coalition has said, we definitely recognize Israel. We will help make sure that Hamas does not get back into Gaza. Okay, so we'll take on that responsibility.
But then it'll be another terrorist organization later.
And we'll fund the
rebuild.
reconstruction.
I love this scenario because
What is this? Because I'm not familiar with it.
the 53 Arab states have said, recognize Israel, we'll rebuild Gaza, and we'll make sure Hamas doesn't get back in. You can't ask for more than that. If you ask for more than that, you don't want.
Can I ask you a question? This is we don't have to have like concrete facts for this, right? But like, do you think that there's any part of maybe some of the Arab states that are going, hey, we have to transition into an economy that is not reliant on oil. We can look at tourism and destinations as a way to function for the next 100 years. Maybe, who knows, we develop fusion with AI and now oil's worth nothing because we can turn air into oil, right? Like, we have to look at what the next 200 years is, and it's probably not going to be oil dependent. Let's build up our countries, have there be destinations for people to come to. We cannot have that if there is uncertainty. We cannot have that as there is terrorism. Is there any way that a couple of these Arab states are just going like, listen, we're going to look the other way. You guys get fucking Hamas out of there because we're not going to intervene. They could. They have militaries that you guys do whatever the fuck you want, get them out of there. And when it's cleaned up, then we'll make sure that this is a fun, safe place for everybody to come party at. Is there a possibility that there is at least some of them looking the other way because of that?
So I am no fan of the Arab states. Like,
I didn't ask you if you're a fan. I just asked, like,
so, no,
this
my point is,
hypothetical scenario, like why there seems to be not so much of, I don't want to say interference, but there doesn't seem to be much objection.
No, the Arab states, like all governments, look out for themselves first.
Got it.
Right? And especially because a lot of them are dictatorships, they're going to look out for like the
Their
top
own best
guys, the
interests.
princes, before they look out for their own people, let alone the Palestinian people, right?
Got it.
So does that happen? Of course it happens, right?
Got it.
Do they have ulterior motives? They might have ulterior motives. But look, go back to how you get to peace. So I'll give you one interesting example. Turks and Greeks live together in Cyprus. So Greeks are about 60%, Turks are about 40%. Okay, this is a very rough story.
I don't know if this is a good example you're about to bring up at all.
Yeah, no.
You're about to bring up a horrible fucking example.
Well, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Shoot is shoot.
By all means, I cannot believe
The floor
you're
is
bringing up the
yours.
Cypriots, but go on. let's
Okay,
go.
so the Greeks, since they're the majority, they win in a democracy, right? But they're still pissed at the Turks for 500 years of occupation. So they're taking out some Turks every once in a while. There's violence. And the Turkish government's like, cut this shit out. And they won't. And so they actually go to England to negotiate, and they're not getting anything. The Turkish prime minister calls the general and says, send the mother. That means invade Cyprus. Okay, so they invade Cyprus. They take the whole island. Then they do something amazing. They give 60% of it back to the Greeks. They take 40%. Now, a lot of bad things because, one, there was an invasion. Two, the Greeks that were on the Turkish side got to move to the other side. The Turks that were on the Greek side got to move to the other side. So that's all bad, okay? But then they build a giant wall. And you know how many people have died in Cyprus since then? 0.
Yeah.
So you want them to build the wall?
Yes, I do. I get it. I'm not playing.
It's like,
You want Israel to build the wall?
I get it. Yeah.
they already built one. See, but the point is,
serious.
these people can never live together, and we should just build a wall and divide them. That's your point.
For about 50 years, and they'll be fine.
Right, got
Okay.
it. Got it.
Seriously, like if you do 1967 borders and you go West Bank and Gaza is Palestine, this is Israel. Build the biggest walls the world. Make the Great Wall of China look like child's play.
When
Right?
I think about all of these,
Nobody's
Here's
gonna
my
die.
and this is not a solution, but here's what I would do if I was prime minister or whatever of Israel. I would make the West Bank a Palestinian paradise.
That's what I'm saying.
I would go, hey, why don't we prove that a place without a terrorist organization that has leadership can be an amazing life for Arabs, Palestinians, for Christian Palestinians.
you're going to let the Palestinians stay.
Not only let them say, do
Okay.
not do any more settlements. Like, make this place a beautiful place where these people can thrive.
So the opposite
then-
of Brooklyn. You're going to build it up and make it nice and leave the locals there.
And like
gotcha.
allow them to thrive and have this amazing life. And then it's this example of like what could be, right?
So, Andrew, the problem
the problem is that there are people in the government that don't want that fucking thing, and they're
Exactly.
sending settlements, and
So,
it's like
there's a difference between political leaders in a government and the people themselves, right?
100%.
So whether you're talking about Jews overall or you're talking about Israeli citizens, do they want perpetual war? No, they don't, right? Of
course not.
Do they want to take more Arab land? No, they just want to be safe.
Yes.
And, to your point about the two things, they want money, they want to be safe, just like any human being, right? So, but the leaders want something else.
Yes.
They want Greater Israel, right?
For their own salvation too,
and
because
for their own self-interest. So what is Greater Israel? You take Gaza Strip, you take the West Bank, you take, by the way, Western Syria. They're in Western Syria, right?
Lebanon, maybe?
You take Southern Lebanon. They're in Southern Lebanon. So if they have a map in the Knesset of Greater Israel in their cabinet, and it includes all of that land. And now, oh, look at that. We found a way to get all of that land while pretending to do self-defense. Okay, so I'm not putting that on the Israeli people. I don't think that they think that. They're not part of any cabal. They're not part of any conspiracy. They're just regular people.
Question: Are they pretending to do self-defense? I'm just asking because, like I said, to them it's an act of war. They were attacked.
No. So when you say on October 8th is a self-defense, yes. Okay. And I said they should have used special forces. They should actually went and found Hamas. Oh, well, that's dangerous. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're the IDF. Carpet bombing the civilians isn't helping you. It didn't even get Hamas, right? Get in. I get it. You got to do self-defense. We're 2 years later.
Yeah.
What's self-defense? And they just announced in their cabinet, we're taking Gaza. We're taking it, right? They have this hilarious bullshit about, oh no, we're going to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians and push them into the Sinai desert. But don't worry, we'll let them back in a couple of years. They're not letting them back. They're just stealing it, okay? Yeah. But people have to separate out the Israeli people and the government.
What is the objection to the Arab coalition that runs Gaza and makes sure that there's no terrorist entity that's there? Like, I love that idea. I think it'd probably be better for Palestinians to not be ruled over by Israelis, obviously because of like historical implications, but also like what a fantastic idea to rebuild the region. And like,
well, I mean, I think we're leaving a major component out on both sides of the conversation, which is religion, right? I do think the mass of Palestinians, Jews, whoever's in the region want the same thing, to your point. Mm-hmm. I want to make some money. I want to be safe. And I agree, like, do I think every Israeli is sitting around wringing their hands, yeah, we're going to kill some Arabs? No. I have to be real, though. There are religious Jews who believe that's who's doing the settlements, right? Yeah. This is ours. This is our God-given right. We're doing this come hell or high water. They are radicals. Yeah. And there are the same elements on the other side who feel this is ours. It's our given right. And I think they're the ones forcing this thing constantly.
Stoking the flames, 100%.
There's one other religion that's creating a problem. So you're right. Radical Jews want all of Greater Israel. Radical Muslims think it's the Holy Land, right. ours. But then there's a Christian Zionist here in America.
Sure.
That's what I was referring
to.
They're
falling off.
They are falling off, but they still had a lot of power.
That was like 80s, 90s. Now I feel
they're
like...
back.
No. Huckabee's the ambassador to Israel.
Yeah. Huckabee is 100 years old. I feel like, to be honest, like the religious right in America is actually acting... They're quite critical.
No, they're getting better. They're getting better. But for a long, long time, the Christian Zionists were more powerful than AIPAC, right? So, so what the Christian Zionists want is these idiots.
The Jews got to be in the Holy Land in order for Jesus to come back and then kill them all, so that they can have
it. Right. The red cow shows up.
They have this whole rigmarole. That, like,
that would prove they were right. That happened. How would you report that? Like seriously, if Jesus actually came back, okay. What would you say?
No. I'd be like, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it, Jesus. I didn't mean it. You know why? Because I believe in facts. If he came back, then I was wrong.
Yeah.
And one of my friends in Turkey says, Cenk, being on the left, it's so hard to make money, man. Why don't you just one day wake up and say you saw Jesus in a dream? And you found Jesus. Let's get rich. Let's get rich. Just say you found Jesus, and now you're a right-winger. They'll give you so much money.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, I'm not going to do that. So, but those guys were like, had this 7-step plan. They have to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel has to take the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Then Jesus comes back and kills everyone. And I'm like, why do you even want Jesus to kill everyone? Like, what a crazy. It's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. Just made this shit up in America.
This is we're just in the holding cell, man. We got to go to the greater pastures. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And we're just hanging out until we go to heaven.
We also got to salute the Kickoff, man. Kickoff, thank you very much for supporting the Brilliant Idiots podcast this week. I'm talking to all y'all out there right now whose credit is not perfect. Okay, I know your credit's not perfect and you feel like the system is stacked against you, but the reality is, even if you're responsible with money, bad credit can keep you from moving forward, all right? You want to get a car? Can't do that with bad credit. Want to rent an apartment? Can't do that with bad credit. You want to buy a house? You certainly can't do that with bad credit. That's where Kickoff comes in, okay? Kickoff gives you the smartest tools to build real credit fast. Sign up without a credit check, and Kickoff's monthly plans start targeting key credit factors in the background, which can mean real results before you know it. I was blessed to get my credit right really early. You know what I'm saying? I was one of those people who bought a credit card, paid a little bit on it here at a time. That still didn't get my credit quite right. But as I got older and understood credit more, I built my credit score. And now I have over 800, okay, like 815, 820 if I'm not mistaken. So, all you users with credit under 600, I used to be you. Okay, but you can grow an average of 84 points in your first year with Kickoff, okay? With transparent, affordable plans starting at just $5 a month, no hidden fees and zero interest. Kickoff helps you score big when it comes to credit. It's simple. You make on-time payments, credit bureaus see good behavior, and your credit can grow fast, okay? It's the credit line you need. Just like back in the day, I had to get a credit card to build my credit up and get my credit line right. It's the same exact thing, okay? Get a credit line for credit building, not everyday spending, period. Start building credit with Kickoff today, and you can get your first month for as little as $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/idiots today. That's Kickoff without the C. KIKOFF.com/idiots. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/idiots to activate this offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only. Subject to approval, offer subject to change, average first year credit score impact of plus 84 points, Vantage score 3.0 between January 2023 and January 2024 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit score. Individual results may vary. Let's get back to the show. You said something earlier that makes a lot of sense. You said, the government thinks one way and the people think another way. And that's why I go back to the point I made earlier. How are the people ever going to forget this to where there's actual peace? How are they ever going to forget either side? If you lost family on October 7th, if your family was one of the people that got killed in Gaza, how are you ever going to forgive the other side?
I'll be honest,
ever?
I don't know.
Even if the government says it's peace.
Bro, I don't even...
I'll give you a good example in a bad example, okay? Turks at war with everyone for 500 years, right? It biggest, makes Israel look like child's play. We occupied everybody, right? So the minute that we lost in World War I, so all that's over, right? So the Armenians and the Greeks think that we hate them. But I know Turks. We don't hate them at all, okay? Why? Because we were the ones who fucked them up. They didn't fuck us up too bad, right? I mean, in World War I, a lot of people got killed, but overall, we're not sweating it. I don't know any Turk that hates Armenians or Greeks. None, right? So one side's almost covered. If Israel did a peace deal...
You don't know any Turks that hate Greeks?
No, I don't. I swear to God. And I tell you,
they got all the hate out.
Yeah, we did. I mean, because we were the ones kicking their ass, right?
No Turks.
We got all the hate out. It's hilarious.
Who invented baklava?
The Turks,
Yeah.
But I don't hate them for saying it. So now, do the Armenians still hate the Turks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's it's just the feeling of a lack of acknowledgement of what happened, and that's why I think acknowledging things is helpful.
Huge.
And that's Germany. It's
all it takes is one. Right?
What were they called? The Nuremberg trials. I think that part of that, the Nuremberg trials is obviously justice being served, but also this idea of admission and an ability to hopefully in decades move forward. And I think that is very important to doing that. I think,
the Japanese hate the Chinese. No, the Chinese still hate the Japanese
100%.
because of the rape of Nanking, right? And Japan never acknowledged it, and that's why they're super mad. Turkey never acknowledged the Armenian genocide, why the Armenians are super mad. But I'm in an Uber in London, and it's a Bulgarian guy, right? And I'm like, oh, the Bulgarians, you hate the Turks, right? Because historically we occupied them, they also hate us. He's like, no, not anymore. We vacation in Turkey. We like Turkey now. I'm like, really, what happened? Yeah, our economy got better. And then we're like, that was a long time ago. Who gives a shit? Turkey's beautiful. Let's go.
So it's gonna take a generation at least.
But nobody's killing anybody.
Yeah, maybe two or three.
But
nobody's killing anyone. Right? That's right.
It has to be peace, and it has to be decades. And with that, there is this ability to reconcile the actions and move forward. I agree, but you need peace.
Well, we won't see it in our lifetime.
No, but
maybe
we
at the end.
We can. We got. I mean, look, when Jimmy Carter got that peace deal between Israel and Egypt, no one thought it was possible. They were making fun of him. It's not going to happen in our lifetime. Peace in the Middle East. Right. This Jimmy Carter guy is crazy. Well, you know what he did? You need people to break the cycle of violence and hatred, right? So what Jimmy Carter did there was they were both going to leave at different times. Sadat was and Begin was. He literally grounded their helicopters. He wouldn't let them leave.
Wow.
Okay. And he's like, nope, you're stuck in Camp David until you have a deal. Okay.
Wow.
So, and how did Martin Luther King break the cycle of violence and hatred, right? He did civil disobedience. And there was this, when I was
He didn't necessarily break it, though. I get what you're saying, though.
No, but he went a long, long way. And he got the Civil Rights Act.
Legislation got
Voting Rights
passed,
Act,
yes.
Okay.
But didn't change the hearts of people, is what I'm...
But he changed a lot of hearts. Not all hearts, but a lot of hearts, right? And so what did he do? Did he do it by attacking? No. Did he do it through violence and further hatred? No. When I was younger, this is the one, I love Martin Luther King, right? But there's one line I never understood, and now I get it. He said, hate can't drive out hate. Only love can. Okay? And now I get it, because the more you hate the Israelis, the more the cycle of hatred continues.
Martin
right?
never also owned a gun, because a gun can drive out motherfuckers, too. You pull that shit out.
But it won't, because the other guy will come back with 2 guns.
That is also
Yes.
true.
right.
Yeah. So the violence needs to stop. There needs to stop on both
We
sides.
agree on that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you change the hearts of people, even if, like...
Right. If you're a kid who's growing up in Gaza
Exactly.
right now, how do you not hate Israel?
Have you seen those videos where these kids are going to remember this forever?
And furthermore, like, how could the people in Gaza trust that there aren't going to be any more further expansions, or even in the West Bank? And how could the people in Israel trust that there aren't going to be any more attacks from Gaza? I think, even though we say right now, as these people that are in America in safety and not having to deal with all of it, going, yeah, if they just stop, everything will be fine, their hearts and minds won't believe it because of what they've endured their entire life.
If I'm the government of Israel, if I'm the government of Israel right now, I'm probably like, yeah, we probably do need to take it all over and get everybody out, because they're going to come back and hit us.
But then they're going to come back forever and ever and ever, because you just took their
that
land.
cycle will never
And there's
stop.
no-
I don't think it'll stop.
Yeah, and so...
I don't
but
think
you
it
know what?
stops now.
But guys, at some point, peace requires some degree of trust.
I agree.
You can't do it without some degree of trust. And what's the alternative? Like, nobody ever talks about the alternative. The alternative is Israel keeps occupying the Palestinians for another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you know what happens? More Palestinians hate them, more Arabs hate them,
You're right.
more Muslims
No,
hate
no,
them,
you're right.
more world hates them. So how is the whole world hating Israel helping to keep Jews safe in Israel?
I agree
It's not at all.
with you.
And this is the larger concern as like American. Like, obviously, as an American dude, like, my concern is with the American people here, Palestinians and Jews, and what they're going through, right? So it's like you want to
agree.
make sure that they both feel safe, and this. Yeah, this like deep connectivity to these experiences. Like, these people have either been there or they still have family there. Like, it's impossible to not feel that connection emotionally to what's going on, and to not trust what the other side says they will do in the event that there is peace. So, as much as I want to say, yeah, this is all we need to do to have it and figure it all
That's
out, I at least have to approach them with, you're not crazy to think it won't work.
I understand all your
You're
concerns.
not.
That's right.
You're
Yeah,
not. You're
yeah,
both
that's
not
right.
crazy to think it won't
right.
work.
That's right. But the last thing I would ask them is, do you think that Israel is going to be safer in the next 20 years if you continue to occupy and have wars for those 20 years? Or do you think there's a higher chance that Israel will be safer if you do a peace deal? Both sides involve risk.
Yep.
I'm acknowledging the risk, right?
Yep.
But what is more likely to get you to peace? Peace or war?
I agree. I think that what they would probably say, because I've asked the exact same question, is, and then what happens if that deal is broken? What do we do then?
Oh, it's so easy.
What do you do? What do you do?
So if Egypt had broken the deal and attacked Israel, then Israel gets to attack them back. America joins, Europe joins. No, we had a peace deal. A peace deal is a peace deal. Whoever breaks the peace deal, there's going to be consequences. Okay.
And- yeah.
So now there's no Gaza at all if that happens.
So by your argument,
no, but like-
Israel would say by your argument, like, that is what happened.
But there was no.
There was no deal.
There was no deal. There was
Agreed.
no peace. There was no sovereignty. There was no Palestinian state. And look, the absurd argument, they wouldn't let Israel exist. First of all, Israel does exist. You
Right.
know what doesn't exist? Palestine.
Right.
Right. So you can't block them from existing and tell me, well,
I
hypothetically,
agree.
they might block me from existing, blah, 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 100 years from now or whatever. Besides which, they don't have anything.
We're just in a privileged position to be like over here in safety, not
Exactly.
dealing with any of it, and then telling them what would be best for them when
Exactly.
they're in there living it. And it's
Well, our safety is relative too.
say that. What is that? Was that?
I mean, I don't want to jinx anybody, but the more this continues to be a hot spot and tension.
Oh, you're saying we
People
could be
look- yeah.
brought into a.
You saw what happened to the couple in D.C.?
Yeah.
I mean,
Look, let's be honest. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, why
The people that got
does
set on fire, was that San Francisco, I think it was?
So why does
What's 9/11? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Look, guys, if you don't know, why does I'm telling the audience, why does anybody in the Middle East chant "Death to America"? Because we support Israel. Period. We got no fight with them, right? Muslims didn't have a fight with us.
Right.
Like Muslims.
Wait a minute, it's not because they're jealous of our freedom?
I mean,
I thought they're jealous of our freedom, dude.
Yeah, I mean, they literally say absurd things like that. Cable news anchor was like, they hate us because they hate us. They hate us because they hate us. No, they don't. They hate us because we support Israel.
And Jews did better in Muslim countries than they did in European countries throughout most of history.
Don't give the Turks any more credit.
No,
do not
I'm gonna
give the
take
Turks any more fucking credit.
I'm gonna take
I
the credit.
hate this revisionist history.
No,
where
this is
everything
real.
was perfect under the Ottoman
Jews'
Empire.
real enemy is the European right wing. It's not the Muslims.
There would be,
This is true. This one is like, this is not Abraham Lincoln
No,
and Elvis Presley. The Ottoman Empire.
he admitted it.
The Ottoman Empire pulls up their entire navy to Spain during the Spanish Inquisition. And the Spanish are like, what the fuck? Are the Ottomans invading? And they're like, no, we came for the Jews. Okay, give us the Jews, we'll take them back to the Ottoman Empire. They're like, really? You want the fucking Jews? And the Ottomans are like, yeah. And they took like 400,000 Jews from Spain.
Thank you for that.
No problem. And saved their lives. Look, why did they do it? Because they're an empire, and they thought that it would be useful throughout the empire, merchants, this, that, the other thing, right? But still, it was a wonderful act of generosity. And in the Turkish fleet, the lead ship still has at its mast a Quran and a Torah for the alliance between Jews and Turks.
I think there
They
is.
also took in Jews during World War II.
I think there is history of peaceful living together, but there is plenty of times throughout the Ottoman Empire where Jews were persecuted.
Of course.
So I think sometimes our revisionist history of this is like, oh, it was perfect, and then
It's going to always be the revisionist history.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to be revisionist
It was an
history.
empire. Horrible things do
It's
happen.
going to be
but
revisionist history with this moment we're in now because you got to get the people to forget.
Exactly.
If you don't get them to forget, it's going to always be a constant cycle.
Yes.
But go back to civil rights for a second, because I saw LA there in the picture, and I was like, look.
Yeah, we got to get to our own problems. So let's
So because to the point you made earlier, Charlamagne, if there was a real leader in that movement, right, they would be like, anytime anybody does violence, we do a circle around them and we walk them over to the police, okay? Why? Because in the civil rights movement, they didn't tolerate that shit. If anyone did any violence, they were out. They were out, okay? Because if you do violence, we're not going to win.
Yeah, you're messing up the movement.
Yeah, because the other side will out-violence us every time, right? That's a stupid strategy. Not only is it an immoral strategy, it's a dumb strategy.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the civil rights way of thinking about it. Like, you're doing damage. Like some.
You know what else that worked? The Nation of Islam. When JFK got assassinated, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the Nation of Islam, nobody say anything about this. We're over here. We're building up our communities. We're building up our neighborhood. We're building up our organization.
This is not
we
our
don't
fight.
need that. This man was beloved by the country. We don't need any smoke. Malcolm X went out there, said the chickens have come home to roost. What did Elijah Muhammad do? He benched Malcolm X. So that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, and the problem is that the folks on the ground, one is they're emotional. I get it. Like, it feels like a war, and the other side's hitting you with tear gas canisters, and you do a normal human reaction, which is, fuck that, let's burn things down, right? So that's one. The other is the activists don't help, man. They're the opposite of the civil rights movement. They're like, yeah, let's go get them. Let's call in a Waymo and burn it. How did that help immigrants when you burn down these cars?
Well, now they have to take Ubers, right?
I mean, right? And that costs money.
They drive them.
I mean, I can understand burning down the Waymos, guys. You're taking our jobs, all right?
You're taking the illegal immigrants' jobs.
I get it. I have no problem. Why do we need self-driving cars in LA with all these Mexicans driving around?
So this is what I would say to the folks at home. Like, if you're going to a protest...
When they make self-driving lawn equipment, it's real.
They got that shit, son.
No, man.
I saw it. It was out. You know those like they'll clean your floors. What are they called? It's like a, you know, the one that's like an automatic little circular vehicle that will clean all the dust off of your carpet and floor.
Yeah,
they have that for lawns now.
Shit.
I saw one hooking up on a lawn, and I saw like 4 Mexican dudes just staring at that shit like.
What's up, man?
Fucking China taking our jobs, fool.
I wish we had that when I was growing up.
Yeah, that would be
I
great.
hated mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Let's pay some bills and come back and talk about America's problems.
Yes.
That's cool.
Have you ever been to a water park and when you finally get to the top of the baddest water slide, you look down and have that final thought, what's the worst that can happen? Well, a Morgan & Morgan client found out he was launched into agony after a water slide at Disney's Blizzard Beach left him catastrophic injuries that he's still dealing with nearly 4 years later. Mr. Strickland hired Morgan & Morgan to represent him in a lawsuit against Disney damages, citing what they call lax safety measures and oversight, according to the lawsuit. While on the downhill double dipper, Strickland briefly went airborne and landed forcefully onto the hard plastic surface after his tube slipped out from underneath him. The result, permanent injuries, ongoing pain, scarring, and what he describes as a loss of enjoyment of life. At the time, Strickland weighed approximately 334 pounds, about 34 pounds over the slide's 300-pound weight limit. Lawsuit alleges Disney either failed to warn him properly or failed to make the ride safe, and argues that the design itself created a dangerous condition. Feel free, guys, feel free to think about the circumstances in your life, situations you've been in where there was negligence. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm with over $25 billion recovered. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years, helping over 500,000 clients get the compensation they deserve. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous. Hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. With Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win. Just visit forthepeople.com/idiots or dial #law #529. That is forthepeople.com/idiots or dial #law #529. This is a paid advertisement.
All right, and this episode of Brilliant Idiots is also brought to you by Talkspace. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatrists that you can access anytime, anywhere. It is June, so it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Last month, May, was just Mental Health Awareness Month, period, but this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you are a brother that's looking to talk to somebody, Talkspace is here for you, man. The world may feel uncertain and out of control at times, but one thing you do have control over is taking care of your mental health. Talkspace makes it easy to start. Just like your physical body needs exercise, your mental health needs maintenance and attention. The better your mental health, the better your physical health, and vice versa. Talkspace therapists not only listen to you, they provide valuable techniques to manage stress or conflict in your life, helping improve your coping skills and self-awareness. Talkspace makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. Plus, most insured members have a $0 copay. Let me tell you more about why I love Talkspace, man. I love Talkspace because it's just easy. You know, there's really not a reason, a valid reason to not be getting, some type of help if you need it, because it's so easy. You can do so much telehelp, and Talkspace is one of those telehelp platforms, okay? As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/idiots and enter promo code SPACE80. That's SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/idiots and enter promo code SPACE80. Let's get back to the show. Church announcement, Schultzy.
Life, Netflix, go check it out. Thank you so much. Emmy's around the corner, so
Hey.
let's see what happens.
For me, Uncommon Favor by Don Staley is out right now on my book imprint, Black Privilege Publishing with Simon & Schuster. It's been on the New York Times bestsellers list since it came out, so thank y'all for that. Her audio book also made the New York Times bestsellers list, so last week she made 2 lists. She made the hardcover nonfiction list and the audio list. And on June 24th, the next release off my book imprint, Black Privilege Publishing, is coming out. It is No Holds Barred from Mandy and Weezy, commonly known as Decisions, okay?
Go.
June 24th, they will be in bookstores everywhere. If you go on Amazon right now, they're #1 in a couple of categories, so the whole hive is definitely showing up for them. So let's get ready for that. That's like a week away, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. So yes, let's get ready for that. Decisions, No Holds Barred. Mandy and Weezy will be in bookstores everywhere in just a couple of weeks, June 24th. And Cenk, did I say it right?
Cenk with a
Cenk.
G.
Like short for Jenkins.
See, why you ain't tell Black? You could have been told me that and I could have been getting it. What you mean? Yes, Cenk, okay? What you got, Cenk? Young Turks Network?
So Young Turks is probably pretty much on every platform, so just type in Young Turks or TYT, you're gonna get us. But especially on YouTube, we're live at 6 o'clock every day, 6 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you're checking us out. we do the actual news. Like we do analysis and we're passionate, we're authentic, but we give you the facts first. We don't mess around with the facts. So check out Young Turks YouTube, 6 o'clock Eastern, and check out Rebellion Pack, because that's my pack that's trying to do the economically populist wing of the Bernie movement. Ro Khanna's in it. We got a whole bunch of great candidates. Go support those guys. So rebellionpack.com.
You know, I wanted to get into some of America's problems and talk about what's going on in California, but I feel like I would rather talk about solutions. And when you said Rebellion Pack, it made me think of, you know, what are some solutions? What is going to change the current consciousness of America, right? And we always talk about that happening through people, whether it is, you know, great leaders like a Martin Luther King Jr. or great elected officials, you know, like a Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or whoever the change agents were in that space. Me and Cenk both believe there's only one person, and I think you feel like this too, Schulz. There's only one person that could come to the forefront and bring us together as a people. Who am I thinking?
Dr. Umar Johnson, man.
He's one, but I'm sorry.
Dr. Umar. the one true hope is the Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson. I think that he'd be a fantastic
You
choice.
need a Dr. Umar, though. You should have Dr. Umar on Young Turks.
No, I think I know who you're talking about, Jon Stewart.
Come on,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah.
Why do you think that, Cenk?
First of all, you have to be likable to win. John's super likable. That's why entertainers win all the time. Trump was not a businessman. He failed at business 6 different times. He was an entertainer. He was a reality host on Apprentice. Ronald Reagan was an actor. Zelensky's a comic, right? So John is super likable. Number 2, he knows the material, and he's effective. He got a bill passed from outside Congress.
That's right.
That's hard.
That's right.
That's
That's
hard.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
And then look at the contrast between Trump and Stewart as an example. Now, he wouldn't be running against Trump, we hope, right? But
By the way, we got to stop saying that, because if he's running against Trump in 2028, I don't care who Trump runs against, the fight is fixed. If he runs in 2028, he's going to win. We're done. It's over. Democracy as we know it is done.
yeah, so but it contrasts to what Trumpism got done, right? What was one major bill that Trump got passed in his first term? Was a giant tax cut for the rich. What's the major bill he's going for now? Tax cut for the rich. What did John get passed? Help for first responders.
That's right.
Oh, that's a beautiful contrast,
That's
right? Okay, number 2, he's super smart, right? You got smart, you got likable, and you need courage, and I think he's courageous. He's taking on the powerful. What did he do? He first showed back. He said Biden's too old. Everybody, went after him for that, but he stood his ground because he's courageous.
Said
right?
COVID was made in a lab.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and look, we're tired of the politicians. The politicians are full of crap, right? And you know John's not full of crap. And he has the credibility to call out Democrats and Republicans, right?
Yeah, I think he has the trust.
He's independent.
He's
And he
trust
knows what the
America.
fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He knows
John actually knows he knows politics, he knows the political world, he knows the space. Like he's gotten legislation passed, he knows what he's doing.
all of the qualifications that would make him an amazing president are probably the reason why he won't want to do it. You almost want someone who doesn't want to do it.
Why is there not a
No, but you know the line from Gladiator.
That's right.
Was Marcus Aurelius tells Maximus, I want
Not
you to
you,
be
who?
Caesar. And he says, no, me. No, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And he says, that's why it's got to be
That's why it's got to be
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it would be an amazing benevolent act because obviously, John is in this perfect place in his life. He has all his success. I'm sure he's, financially secure. He's got his family, and he would be giving up a lot of that and putting himself in an unbelievable shitstorm, him and his family in an unbelievable shitstorm.
Yeah, but there's no such thing as shitstorms anymore. Now, will your privacy and everything get invaded? Sure, but as far as like them pulling up shit from back in the day, Trump wiped that out the way. It's
Yeah, you're right.
gone.
It's different. It's
Nobody
definitely
gives
different.
a fuck about anything that you had that you're trying to hide. Nobody cares.
Yeah, the other day, so he does the show on Monday where he's kidding around about deport, and doing the jerk-off motion and stuff. And he's kidding with us afterwards saying like, oh, man, imagine that in a commercial ad.
Yeah,
and my answer is, who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit?
In fact, they'll like you more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have
you spoken to him about running?
trustworthy
You spoke to him about running, John?
for like a second.
Yeah, Monday, we was at the Daily Show Monday.
Oh, okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
Great night to be there too, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, Cenk was in town. He was like, "You want to go by the Daily Show?" I'm like, "All right, let's go up. Let's pull up." And it was Stephen A. Smith that night, and it was, John's covering what's going on in California, and he's covering the Elon Trump shit. Like, it was beautiful.
What do you? We'll keep going on this, and then because I want to talk Elon and Trump, but go on.
So at least one more thing on John. Look, he has a significant chance of winning, and you'd kind of have to be crazy to think that he doesn't have a chance.
I think he wins Democrat without a doubt.
I think he wins the country landslide.
I think he wins.
No, the general election is easy.
I think general
primary is harder.
You think the primary is harder?
Oh, definitely.
Because of the DNC.
Yeah,
because of their politics.
And establishment media.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, they'll think, Jon Stewart, that's so funny. Let's cover him. Oh, he's going to run. He's a celebrity. It'll be fun, right? And they'll cover him, but they'll think he won't win, just like they thought Trump wouldn't win, right? And then he'll get ahead of steam. And once he gets ahead of steam, they'll be like, whoa. No, it's got to be Buttigieg. It's got to be Buttigieg.
But establishment media has always loved John. Like, John has been the most honest voice in politics.
Until he runs.
Until he runs.
Think?
Yeah, because
here's why.
But
what do you throw at him? To your point, what do you throw? That he had nothing bad.
They'll find
There's
something.
no flaws on John.
They'll find
John's clean.
But it won't work. It won't work. So will they go after him? Yes. Why? So they don't. It's not that the reporters and the anchors know this and it's a conspiracy, and just like with Israel's there's none of that, right? But 17 billion in the last election cycle and of money in politics, and most of that went to mainstream media, right? So their number one client in cable news is politicians.
Yeah.
Okay, they make so much money from politicians and from money in politics. And once they get a sense that Jon Stewart might actually try to end money in politics, mainstream media is going to panic. Okay, they're like, whoa. I mean, why do they never talk about money in politics when that's what decides literally 95% of the elections?
That's what makes their businesses profitable.
Exactly. In fact, one of our hosts, David Schuster, he worked at MSNBC, Fox News, etc. When he was at a local DC station, he had this great story about money in politics. His editor killed it, his general manager or whatever, and he brings him out. So this one was the one where it was literal, right? It wasn't like, it's kind of groupthink or whatever. And he shows him this big newsroom. He says, you see this? He's like, money in politics built that. That's why we're not running your story. Okay? So that's why mainstream media honestly can't be trusted. Their number one source of money is corruption. Is the corruption in politics. So that's why they go after Bernie. That's why they go after anyone, Nina Turner. That's why they go after anyone who's a change agent.
And they can't
if you're at the top, you don't want anything to change.
Well, mainstream. Right? Are they even mainstream anymore? When you have the Young Turks, when you have, the Midas Touches of the world, when you have, every conservative platform on social where people are going to get their news, are they even is CNN, Fox, MSNBC mainstream anymore?
So you're totally right, and they've lost power, right? And I don't even think they're mainstream anymore. And every day they lose more power, and every day we gain more power, right? So that's why, even though it's guaranteed that once they realize John can win, they'll attack him, you're also right that it won't work.
Yeah, we got his back.
It won't work. Because they're like, he won. I mean, look, even his...
They'll say he's never been in government. That's what they'll do. They'll be like, he's never... I agree. I don't think it's
That'll
something...
only help him.
We just had a president who never...
I agree. I'm just telling you,
like,
what they'll do. There's a playbook, and they'll throw it at him.
No,
and
you're totally right. When Bernie started running again in 2020, I said, by the end, they'll call him an anti-Semite. Right? And they called him an anti-Semite, even though he's Jewish. It's crazy. They'll do anything.
Well, we'll represent the Suck My Dick coalition of the party. And they come after John.
But the more they come after him, the more they come after him.
This guy's great. We keeping that in.
He said the Suck My Dick coalition is like, who are you voting for, Buttigieg? Jesus Christ. Elon Trump. You want to finish?
No, just the thing is, the more they come after him, the more popular he'll get.
Yeah. Yes.
Because independents, populists, both on the left and the right, be like, so he's the guy who's honest.
Yeah. Here's my concern about John, is that I don't think John, like many politicians and many entertainers, are a bottomless pit that needs approval and attention. And when you're not that, you don't need to put yourself out in front of people constantly for their appreciation. And I wonder if he might go, I don't want to ruin my life right now, and this might ruin my life.
But here's the moral argument I would make to him, which is, I think he has at minimum a 25% chance of winning. Okay.
25?
Higher, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying at a minimum, right?
Yeah.
I think if you ask me my real opinion, 55.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, okay, but even if it was only 25,
yeah.
And I said to you, Andrew, I think you have a 25% chance of saving the country. That you could be president, you could get money out of politics, you could end the corruption, you could serve the average guy.
What would I say?
Are you going to be selfish enough to turn down a 25% chance of saving the country? Okay, well, that's your answer. I hope John's answer is different.
Okay, 100. If you said I had a 100% chance of winning, I wouldn't do it.
Wow.
I don't want to be president.
Believe you.
I don't want. You can ask any of them. I would never want to be president. It's not even close. I just had a kid. I want to hang out with her.
No, I know you don't want to be president. But he's the one guy that could upend the system, right? So look, there's other people. There's Ro Khanna. He's super smart, great guy, etc. But being an outsider,
Not charismatic enough, and I like Ro.
Yeah, but
not charismatic enough.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a
Huge
politician
difference.
as much as he is a dish. And that is a problem. I think that is a problem for people.
All right, man.
Shout out Ro, though. Shout out Ro. You're doing great work. Mile, please.
I don't know if I believe the Elon Trump shit, Joe. I just don't. I feel like it's wrestling. I feel like I'm gonna tell you why. Did you see Elon this morning? Elon said he takes it all back this morning.
Yeah.
I feel like it's all wrestling. I feel like Elon's going back into, regular life again, being a CEO. He's got to get his stocks back up on his company. What's the best way to do that? Let's have a little kerfuffle. And I know everybody keeps talking about he wouldn't go that far with the Epstein shit. Guys, the Epstein shit is a nothing burger. It means nothing. He's in the White House already. We saw him on the flight logs. You see pictures and videos of him. They smiling, pointing out girls. What would Donald Trump being on the Epstein list do? And by the way, if the Epstein list comes out, it's not just going to be Donald Trump on there. Now the Democratic Party got to reckon with Bill Clinton. And you got to reckon with a whole lot of other allies that might be on the list. So what would Donald Trump being on the in the Epstein files do?
I think you make a great point. What I chalked it up to is just like Elon having a hissy fit because he didn't get his way. And I think what Elon thought was, Elon thought Trump is kind of dumb and he could do whatever he wanted with him. And I think he learned that that's not the case. Like, Trump is just kind of going to do what he wants to do. Now, you can convince him of things, but you can't tell him to do something.
Mm-hmm. But Trump didn't even jump off the ledge with Elon. He never went crazy at all. I'm like,
and say whatever you want about him. He knows if you're soft. Trump, this is the thing, Trump has dealt with real people. And he knows all these politicians are pussy. And he knows when you're knocking on doors collecting rent.
That's the point.
When you're hanging out, when you're trying to get these buildings made, you're dealing with shit. He paid off all these politicians. He knows that they're soft as baby shit. And he looks at Elon, he looks at all these other tech guys, and he goes, they're a bunch of pussies. I'll roll over them if I want. And this is what I think happened. I think he got some opposition research that showed a lack of loyalty from Elon in some way. I don't know what that is. I don't know how it manifested. But usually if you ride hard for Trump, really hard, he will keep you around and he'll support you. And I think he heard something, saw something. I heard there was a little something with the guy that Elon wanted to head NASA. This guy, Jacob Isaacson or something like that. And apparently he was a big Dem donor. And then Trump was like, why do you want me to put this guy in charge of NASA when he was primarying people that I'm supported? What the fuck is this thing about? Are you not loyal to me? Do you just have your agenda? You're not trying to support my agenda? And I think the second that he saw that, he's like, I can't trust that motherfucker.
But Trump didn't act first.
You don't think that's it? Tell me. You know, I'm just
usually when Trump doesn't trust somebody, he shoots first. Well, he didn't shoot first.
No reason to shoot.
So
what do you think it is?
I think it's a lot simpler than all that. So Elon wanted the guy in charge of NASA because he wants deals for SpaceX.
Yeah.
Right? And he didn't get that, so he's thinking, I put in $300 million.
I need my...
where's my cut? And then the electric vehicle subsidies, Trump took that out, which, by the way, Trump should get credit for that.
You're okay, go on.
Right?
Yeah.
So he ends those subsidies. Then Elon now starts to stew, right? And he's like, what the fuck? I give this guy $300 million.
He's supposed to do what I want.
Yeah, and in fact, he writes in that tweet, such lack of gratitude. What ingratitude, right? I give them $300 million. You're supposed to give me $300 billion back. That's how working a donor.
You're supposed to be a politician. I pay off politicians. They do what I tell them.
Elon's
to do.
going to get that money back, man.
No, but
he
it's
took
not
out
about that.
Things that were really important to
They're
Elon,
talking about
right?
building a dome. Who do you think's going to build the dome? They're going to get more SpaceX contracts.
It's not about money. It's about power.
Well, if that's the case, Elon will never be on top.
And that's the thing he's grappling with. The closest that Elon will ever be to being in power.
It's standing next to Trump's penis.
Exactly. He's not born in America. He cannot be president. That is the closest he'll ever, well, okay. But that is the closest, at least in my opinion, that he'll ever be to like true power. There's a difference between money and power.
Money's
power.
not power. Power is power.
Exactly.
And Trump showed him that. 'Cause I said this that morning on Breakfast Club. I said, if this is real, Donald Trump's pulling one of Elon Musk's contracts, one of his government contracts for SpaceX or something.
So that gets us to part two, right? So Elon's stewing, and I mean, there's reports out that he does a decent amount of drugs, right? And so he's not good with impulse control. We see it all the time. He just tweets shit and goes, damn it, like calling people pedophile for no reason, et cetera,
Not even the first time he did that.
Yeah, and he had to be sitting on that Epstein file line for so long. He wanted to use it so bad. So when Trump agitates him, he goes, that's it. And he says, this bill sucks because he hates the bill. Trump punches back and it devolves. So why is Elon now going back and making up and bowing down? Because Golden Dome and all the other things that are on the line.
Yeah.
So if forget the subsidies, if Donald Trump cancels Golden Dome, that's the big boondoggle. That's the one that's going to get him hundreds of billions back, right? Elon realizes power is power, and he's like, oh, my bad. Yeah, I didn't
go, Elon. You want to go to Russia? You want to go work for Putin? Like, where else are you going to get this access? You're not going to get in China because we already saw what they do, the tech dudes. This is the closest you have to actual power. And you know what? You ain't gonna have it. Not with this guy. You might have it with another person. Like, I know all the other tech dudes, they're probably looking at JD. They're like, hey, we've been funding this guy for over a decade. Maybe if JD's up next, he's gonna, please believe Peter Thiel made an investment early on in JD, and he hopes to be able to recoup on that investment. Please believe. Now,
JD's only the guy if Trump says so.
Of course, but it's up to JD to decide if he's going to do that, or I don't want to even call it honor that relationship, but that kind of quid pro quo situation, or pull a Trump and do what he thinks he does when he's in power.
It'll never work for JD.
Well, we'll see. But the point is, whether you like Trump or not, he is his own guy. And the only way you can get him to do something, in my personal opinion, is you have to show public support for that thing. He reacts to public sentiment. So you have to convince that this is something the public wants, and then Trump, like the entertainer that he is, starts to go, it seems like the majority of people, democracy, want this thing, or at least the majority of the people who support me want this thing. I will take interest in this thing, and maybe we should execute that thing.
Trump has two giant downsides and two significant upsides, right? The downsides we all know, he's obsessed with money. He wants everything for himself, and he has authoritarian tendencies. If he could, he'd be king in a second, wouldn't give a shit about democracy or anything like that, right? But the upsides are, number one, credit where credit is due. Normally when a donor tells you to jump, you jump.
And he don't jump.
Right. And so Elon told him to jump on the electric vehicle subsidies at NASA, and he didn't jump.
I don't need you no more.
Right. And then number two, Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family gave Trump $337 million. That's why Netanyahu thought he had him in his back pocket.
And then he found out.
So this is a great ironic advantage of Trump. He always fucks his creditors.
You couldn't even give him a compliment. You couldn't even say he's his own man.
That's true, though.
Because he thinks this way. And he said it out loud, right? So he had 6 major bankruptcies. And they asked him, well, you always go bankrupt. He's like, well, it's good business. I take their money and then I don't pay him back. He's like, why would I pay him back? I already got their money. Right? And he did that 6 different times. So he learned that's the right way. So with the Adelsons and AIPAC and Elon Musk, he's like, I already got your money. And I'm already president.
And I'm already president.
Right?
I'm already in power. I don't need you ever again.
And this is what people like, I think Elon and maybe the Adelsons and other people are like, it's not as transactional as money with him. In Trump's mind, he's like, I have money. I don't need you to buy me with the money. Well, whatever. But we can debate that. But I think this is my suspicion.
I think now it's the power.
Sure. But this is my suspicion, again, is I have conviction in terms of what I'm going to do, and I have public support for that, and I pay very close attention to the public, because when they shift, I will at least indulge it and then potentially shift. Now, there are circumstances, in my personal opinion, that if you want to influence culture, he will move in that direction with you. But I think that there are certain ways where Trump's, you could call it narcissism. I think he's on his own hero's journey. And in his mind, I think he's like, I'm going to win the Nobel Peace Prize by stopping world wars.
I would love it.
And there's a part of you that goes, whether he does that for narcissism or the good of humanity,
I don't care at all.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I truly believe he's like, that's why I'm here right now. One of the reasons why I'm here. So I'm like, if his narcissism, as you call it, or his hero's journey lines up with your interests, let him cook.
No, I'm famous for taking yes for an answer, right? and I tell the guys who disagree with me on the left all the time, like, if he doesn't attack Iran, you give him credit. Take yes for an answer.
He's
right?
literally stopping Bibi from doing it. Like,
Yeah,
you've heard all the,
yeah,
like, Bibi wants it
100%,
badly. He's like down.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. And that's Trump's second advantage, right? One is he's his own man for all those different reasons we talked about, screws over creditors. The second is he loves being popular. That's why he's more obsessed with the ratings than he is anything else, right? If like the three of us got into the Oval Office and we replaced Stephen Miller and whoever else, and we just told him what to do to be popular, he'd do it, right? And
As long as it actually reflected popular sentiment. We would have to convince him that it reflects
as long as we're right.
Yes,
As long
yes,
as we're
yes,
right,
yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
And so that's a huge advantage for us because that means you can move people. And I'll show you an example where it happened, right? So I said I went on all the podcasts, I went on right-wing podcasts, independent podcasts, and I came back and said MAGA is not a cult. Okay, they're now starting to disagree with each other all the time. And people said, you're crazy. No way, they're all a cult. They'll never disagree, etc. So and I'm like, wait, you think Rogan's part of the MAGA cult? I'm like, Rogan's not part of the MAGA cult. He's an independent. Maybe he's leaning right. Maybe he's going to support Trump, but he's not. So then what happened?
Totally independent.
Yeah, so then Trump gets in office. He does that ridiculous thing where he said, we're going to take over Gaza and
make it a Gaza Lago or whatever. Yeah.
And we're going to, and one line that really set MAGA off was, he said, we're going to take care of the unexploded bombs, okay? So that means Israel doesn't have, no IDF soldier has to get hurt. Americans are going to get hurt instead.
And they said,
okay,
no,
and
no,
MAGA was like, fuck no, we're not.
Yep.
We're not dealing with unexploded bombs on behalf of Israel, right? And then Rogan says no. They arrest Mahmoud Halil. Rogan says no, okay? And what does he do? Within 24 hours on the Gaza one, he turned around and said, no, I didn't need American troops. We're not going in. Don't worry. Why? Because he likes being popular.
There are MAGA people who have cult-like tendencies.
Of course.
And I think the problem is we do these blanket statements, like we say MAGA, whatever. I think that sometimes, to your point, Trump just goes with what's the most popular opinion out there from his base.
Yeah, and it's just like we talked about, all of his voters aren't racist, but some are, right? Same thing with MAGA. Are some of them cult? Definitely. You say that Trump, for some of them, man, Trump could fuck their mom and they'd be like, yes, way to score, mom, right?
I mean, you're already calling him dad.
Yeah.
So you might as well let him fuck your mom.
So does that portion of MAGA exist? Of course, right? But is that all of MAGA? No. Because you could tell, because they rebel. They rebel. Yeah.
Also,
and now, by the way, they're rebelling on Israel big time.
Also,
they're
I feel like
spending money on Israel.
I feel like a lot of the supporters or a lot of the people that voted for him, it was more of a rejectionist vote of Biden. That we now
the establishment.
And like Biden and Kamala, which we thought was just like a what is that?
Biden was just most.
What is it when you put somebody in there, a Trojan horse, if you will, for the administration? So I think it was this.
Biden was just a trash ass candidate.
And
he was too old.
Sure.
Like, he just wasn't good.
You're both right. I'm positive you're both right. So Biden couldn't talk.
Yeah.
What was the conversation about, right?
Yeah.
And Kamala, let's be honest, word salad city, right?
It wasn't good, and you need to be good.
She wasn't good at all, right?
Yeah.
She's never been good. Okay, but Andrew's definitely right. You know what Trump is? You remember that Johnny Cash album where he gave a middle finger on the album cover, right, from Folsom Prison?
Yep.
Right? That's Trump to the establishment. He's giving them a giant middle finger. So everyone who hates the establishment, which is like 60% of the country, is like, finally, somebody gave those.
And the establishment needs to take some accountability for that. Like, why are you so hated? You can't just go, oh, because everybody's racist, sexist, and a bigot. It's like, oh, well, maybe there's some things that you were doing that made the people lose faith in you. You have to look in the mirror a little bit if you're the establishment.
It's so obviously true because because Rogan backed Bernie. Why did he back Bernie? Populist outsider.
Anti-establishment.
Yeah, populist outsider, anti-establishment. Why does the mainstream press hate Bernie and Trump? Because they're populist outsider, anti-establishment. And the mainstream media is the establishment.
You know what's funny to me about MAGA now? MAGA right now, I don't know if they have the same faith they did have in Trump, but what they want is to not be wrong. So they want everything that he's doing to work.
That's the cult scenario that I was describing earlier.
By the way, as an American, you should want the stuff to work.
Yes.
But right now, it's not working, and it's obvious it's not working. And so now they're like, okay, what do we do? What's the plan? You know, do we just got to wait? That's what they're telling you. They're just like, wait, just wait. There's a plan,
I think that's why there was pushback about this big, beautiful bill, which is like, you know, you said that we're going to cut, like you really promoted Doge. We're going to cut the we're going to cut the debt. And, and it's like, this bill, it seems, and I've looked into it a little bit, I don't know that much about it, but this idea that like, okay, well maybe GDP will outpace the debt, and it's like, okay, that is a maybe, right? But it's like, if you're in a hole, you don't keep digging. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in the hole, digging is not going to get you out of it. You would hope. I get.
But if you're in the hole, do you keep pumping?
Hell yeah.
So
exactly.
You're both right.
You know I'm voting for it.
So look, on the bill, $1.7 trillion tax cut for people making above $500,000. Okay.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah,
horrible.
Who would do that shit?
Like, who would want that?
Fucking repulsive.
Who would fucking want that?
Yo, this is.
I mean, my God.
Yeah, this is just. What type of fucking. What type
I think
of.
that's disgusting.
Absolutely genius bill is this? That's what it is?
I can't believe this.
Hold on one second.
I don't even believe that's happening.
Hold on 1 second.
I wonder what tax bracket you all are in.
Hey, but don't worry, he's not going to tax your tips. Don't worry. Yo, you're not taxing your tips or overtime.
You know, maybe that'll turn things around. If we're like tax cut for Charlamagne and Andrew Schulz,
hey man,
maybe they'll turn around.
Hey, this guy's
like, wait. I didn't bargain
genius.
So 1.7 trillion in that tax cut, 1.2 trillion in cuts from Medicaid and SNAP. Right?
Yeah.
So he's literally taking from the poorest and giving to the richest.
Absolutely.
Okay, literally, right?
Yeah.
So that bill sucks. That bill is abomination. It's terrible.
I do believe Elon when he said that. I believe him when he said that, which I thought was dope because I feel like even if you did vote for a person, even if you did support a person, you know, if you did all of that publicly, when you see some bullshit, you should call it out publicly as well. That's how you
totally
keep
agree.
public trust.
If Elon's tweet was, hey, I understand that this administration that I supported does not exactly have an environmentalist agenda. They've removed themselves from the Paris Accords. They said drill, baby, drill. Obviously, his close connections with the American oil industry. It doesn't really make sense to also offer these EV subsidies. It's inconsistent with the messaging this administration always had. And if he wants to take the EV stuff out, I totally am with it. But let's not bump up the deficit $2.6 trillion, whatever.
He sounded too much like a Democrat.
But
like,
fair enough.
That shit sucks. It's going to add money to the fucking deficit.
You're right. That's stickier. But like, what I'm saying is, if he framed it like that, I would go, "Ooh, I trust that you're not out for your self-interest and you're trying to do the benevolent thing."
He never said anything about the EV mandate.
I love that fight. You know why?
Trump told us about the EV mandate.
Yeah. You know why I love that fight? Because they accidentally told the truth a couple of times.
Yeah.
Trump told us about the EV mandate, right? And I took out his subsidies. Then Elon said, how about the oil and gas subsidies? And I love that he said that. Because you know that we give $30 billion a year to the oil and gas companies every year. You take it from the average guy who can't afford it, and you give it to ExxonMobil and Chevron, right? So Doge is full of shit. Why? You tell me you looked for waste, fraud, and abuse, and you couldn't find $30 billion that the average guy is giving to the richest corporations in the world? That's waste, fraud, and abuse. Medicare is not allowed to negotiate drug prices. What the fuck is that? That's like the most anti-capitalist, anti-free market thing you have ever heard. And that creates hundreds of billions of dollars in waste.
But didn't Trump say that he was going to support Bernie's idea about having like a fixed rate for pharmaceutical?
So this is why Ro is so good, Ro Khanna.
Okay, yeah.
This is why I put him in the same league as John and Real.
Yeah.
So Trump does an executive order that's great. He says, you know what? We're going to take the other countries, top developed countries,
whatever their
price
prices
they're paying,
are, that's
we're
ours.
going to pay.
I love it.
That's a great proposal. But he did that in his first term, and he knows the courts aren't going to allow it. The courts knock it down because it has to be a bill. It can't be an executive order. Okay?
So he
knows it's not going to happen. He's full of shit.
So he gets to present as if he supports this, the public backs him, and then the courts are these big bad courts that stop this.
And in fact, Biden did the same thing with student debt. Okay? Biden was like, oh, I'm going to get rid of student debt. I'll do an executive order. Wink. And he knew that had already been knocked down by the courts, and it got knocked down by the courts again. So Ro Khanna steps in, finds two Republican co-sponsors, and goes, I will take Trump's executive order verbatim and make it a bill. Why don't we pass it together?
And?
Okay. So now the Republicans are like in an awkward position where they're like, wait, it's Trump's executive order. I can't vote no.
I love it. Call it the Trump pharmaceutical bill. Put his fucking name on it. I dare you to vote against the Trump pharmaceutical bill.
You know what we got to do? And we do a thing called Operation Hope at TYT, right? Where we get our audience to be volunteers and we push forward. We're trying to reach out to all the congressmen. For Democrats, it's lower drug prices. That's your top. That's a huge policy for you.
There's
no reason you should vote no.
Do it.
No reason, right?
What
For
would be the
Republicans, Trump ordered it. What the fuck you doing?
Better
Trump,
not go against your boy.
Vote.
What's the difference between that bill and the bill that Biden did that lowered drug prices? That got the insulin to $35?
So, no, he didn't do a bill. He did an executive order. And what he did...
Biden?
Biden.
I thought they passed legislation.
So, I'm sorry. He did put that in the legislation. So, no, the difference there is it was insulin in the beginning, and then by 2026, it got up to 10 drugs.
But it wasn't...
There's tens of thousands of drugs.
Yeah.
Got you.
What Biden was doing was, hey, look at me get 1 to 2 drugs. The problem is solved so that you wouldn't worry about the other 9,998 drugs, right?
Got you.
These guys all take money from the industry.
Pharmaceutical companies,
right?
absolutely.
So like we were talking earlier, but AIPAC has huge power and pushes in favor of Israel, right? But the Big Pharma is bigger than AIPAC.
Yeah.
Big Pharma usually in any election, not this last election, but usually spends 4 times what AIPAC spends, right?
Ooh.
So they bought all of Congress. They bought Bush. They bought, keep it real, Obama, Biden, and Trump. None of them have negotiated drug prices. And it's, like I said, it's the exact opposite of the free market. So if we can why is this bill not being voted on?
Real quick. I have good messaging for this. You know how there's like a lot of support in America to stop funding foreign wars? Currently, we are funding foreign illnesses. We are paying higher drug prices here so that people in Europe and other first world countries have lower drug prices.
Yes.
So we are funding foreign diabetes. We're funding foreign cancer. We're funding foreign illness. Why are the American people fighting these illnesses abroad?
We're subsidizing their healthcare.
Yeah.
But we literally are, though.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
but like
because our politicians are more corrupt.
While
So
we
if we
pay high
frame
drug
it-
prices, high fucking healthcare prices.
So if we're against supporting the war in Ukraine, right? Because we don't want to send all this money over there. There are people over here hurting. Why are we feel so much more comfortable subsidizing every illness abroad as well? I think that if you start framing things in that same way, I think Americans start going, whoa. I think that we should take care of our sick before they get to take care of their sick.
This is why I get so frustrated at Democratic leadership. Again, it's never the voters, right? It's not, don't blame the voters, it's the guys at the top, right? Because you couldn't make this argument, right? You couldn't find a way to say, wait, we're not negotiating drug prices? In which free market are you not allowed to negotiate, right?
But you answered your own question 5 minutes ago.
Because they take money from Big Pharma.
Can't speak against daddy.
Right. So the number one issue in the country by a landslide is money out of politics. Because as long as they get paid by Big Pharma and Big Oil and AIPAC and all these things, they're going to be bought bitches for the rest of our lives, okay? That is why the Charlamagne and I are so gung-ho on a guy like Jon, is because he's outside the system, right?
He's not already bought.
Like, I voted against Karen Bass in LA. You know what I did? She said, I'm going to manage the system better. I was like, I don't want you to manage the system better. Okay, number one, I don't believe you. You never do. Okay. Number two, I hate the system. The system in LA and California, what is it? Oh, we took $24 billion from you guys to help homeless people. Okay, good. We're good libs in California. I'm happy to give it. I voted yes every time.
But homelessness increased.
Homelessness went up. So I don't want, that system sucks. And somebody finally asked, we've been dying for somebody to ask, like, where the fuck's the money? Okay. And both the mayor and the governor are like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? We gave $24 billion and you don't know where the money is? And at the national level, same thing. Pentagon can't pass an audit. They can't find $400 billion.
Damn.
No, then I'm not giving you the $400 billion. Until you find where it is, I'm not giving it anymore. That's why I did that tweet that started the whole thing with her. Where I said, hey, Elon, put me in, coach. I said, I'll cut $400 billion from the Pentagon tomorrow. I
remember that.
Right? And Elon was like, oh, that's interesting. What do you think? And Donald Trump Jr. was like, oh, good point, right?
Everybody got mad at you. Like,
Everybody
you want to work with the evil empire.
Exactly. They're like, oh, you want to work with Elon? You think it's going to work? No, I'm like, guys, look, either they do it, in which case I'll take yes for an answer, give them credit, or they don't do it, and they expose how full of shit they are.
There you go.
And what happened? They didn't do it at all. Instead, they added $150 billion to the Pentagon because the uniparty's still in charge, the establishment's still in charge.
What do you think they're doing
Why?
there?
Money in politics. As long as there's money in politics, they're always going to be bought.
What do you think they're doing there with that budget, the Pentagon?
Oh, they're heading it straight to Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, et cetera. It's all the defense contractors. That's why we have wars. That's why we have that out of control budget. And so all those guys, they do two things, all those big defense contractors. One is they pump an unreal amount of money into Congress, right? And the second thing is they spread out their plants across the country so that if you go to college, okay, they go, oh my God, I got a plant in Missouri, I got a plant in California.
Smart.
Oh, you're costing jobs, you're costing jobs.
Smart.
And that AIPAC and defense contractors work together because Israel gets the money, then buys American weapons from Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
Yeah.
So then the defense contractors join AIPAC in supporting Israel,
because
and they become a much
Same thing would happen in Ukraine, right? There was this idea that we were giving them $400 billion or whatever. It's like, no, we were giving American military companies that money, and they were making weapons with it, and then we were sending it over there. Yeah.
And the specific thing that I proposed after Elon asked the question was, look, in order to cut $400 billion, I'd have to look at it line by line. We all know that, right? But I can give you one rule that you should definitely do. And I said, don't allow generals to work for defense contractors after they retire, because there's an obvious conflict of interest. Right now, every general's like...
Same thing with the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, like almost every general is like, oh, I'm going to get $1 million check or $2 million check from Raytheon, et cetera, if I give them a $10 billion contract. Here you go, $10 billion, $20 billion, right? They're just funneling all of our money to the defense contractors because they're going to get rich after they retire.
I think and I think that happens with the pharmaceuticals too, right?
100%. That's the revolving door. So Don Jr. then said, "Oh, that's a great idea. We're already working on it." So Don, where are you?
So here's the thing that's interesting.
Where you've been working on it this whole time?
We were talking about this, I think even before the episode, but we have a fucking awesome system, and like we should criticize it all the time. We should try to endeavor to make it better. But there are these things that are built into the system that can be taken advantage of and are being taken advantage of. Absolutely. And we're the ones that are the victims of that, right? I mean, not the three of us here, but there's hardworking Americans that are going to be the victims of that. No. So what these people are doing, these companies are doing, is not illegal. There's a system in place that we have to change in order for them to be less effective in manipulating these votes.
And that's the beauty of this moment that we're in. If we do it right, and by we, I mean the people. If the people do what we're supposed to do, the system will never be the same again. But will it be never be the same for the good or the bad?
Right.
Yeah. So look.
Yeah,
I
that's but that's what is it? Was it Jefferson said like the people deserve? The people should get the country they deserve, or democracy gives the people the country that they deserve. Deserve doesn't mean the better country. It's the one that they choose and they vote for.
No,
we hope it's better.
That's right.
I know, but guys, don't put it on the people because they don't even know, right? Like, I would say the number one problem in America, like in terms of why we don't address money in politics, when it's obviously the cancer that's destroying democracy, right, is mainstream media. Because mainstream media, when the Young Turks look at a bill, right, like the budget bill or whatever, we go, okay, who's funding the politicians? Boom, here's a direct connection, right? Oil companies give this is what they get in the bill. Pharmaceutical gives this is what they get in the bill. New York Times can't figure that out, right? They never talk about it. They're having debates. They're not having debates.
You're right, but they're in it for ratings. They're in it for revenue. They're on TV. They're in New York Times. They're asking answers. We're giving them the answers to those actual questions that people aren't asking. You said that they don't know. They do know because you're telling them. Yeah. They do know because we're having conversations with those.
We can't infantilize
over the last 10 years.
That's all it takes, though, right?
Yeah. And that's why the population is activated. And by the way,
that's why we're disillusioned by the establishment, because we have the information to be disillusioned by.
Ironically, the mainstream media, New York Times, CNN, created Trumpism, because Trumpism is anti-establishment, right? And the establishment lied to them so often. I mean, I was on a reporter once, and I said, the politicians just serve their donors, right? They get millions of dollars, and they serve their donors. And she said, well, that sounds pretty conspiratorial. And I'm like, wait, let me get this right. So somebody takes $2 million from someone and doesn't do what they want?
Yeah.
That seems conspiratorial.
You can look it up and see who's taking the money from big.
Yeah, guys, it's not complicated.
That's not a conspiracy. That's Trump.
Uh-huh.
you'll take your $2 million and he won't do what you want with it. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I
It's
give him credit for.
Fuck your creditors.
Fuck your creditors. It's an interesting way of framing it, but like it is something that I think a lot of his constituents, a lot of his supporters do like about him. This idea that it doesn't seem like he can be as easily bought as these other politicians. And I don't think it's unfair to give him credit for that. Now, you might not like what he chooses to do. Obviously, there's tons of room to criticize it. But to say that like, he's under the thumb of this, he's under the thumb of that, he's pissing off all these motherfuckers.
No, he's not under the thumb of anyone. But you see, the thing is, he wants personal corruption. So he'll take a $400 million jet from Qatar.
Right.
His son-in-law will get a $2 billion deal from the Saudis.
Right.
His other son will get a $2 billion deal from Qatar. But part of the reason why the establishment hates him so much is because they're like, you're supposed to do corruption for us.
Corruption is the American way.
Yeah.
And,
Let us bribe you.
Not only are you supposed to do it for us, you can't take the country down with you. You know what I'm saying? Go get rich. This is what we do. But you got to keep the standing of America at number one.
Yeah.
That's just
Let's hope that does happen. Yeah.
And look, I'll say one more thing about money in politics. The first president who actually takes it out, doesn't like gets the nation mobilized. We pass a constitutional amendment, and if the president asks for it, we'll get mobilized. 93% of Americans already hate it, and they think that the politicians serve their donors and not their voters.
Yeah.
So the whole country agrees. Everybody agrees to this. The president that gets that done has statues of them all across the country.
If he
becomes the greatest president of our lifetimes.
If he doesn't get, God forbid.
Yeah,
I got you. But that's why I say,
clear
like,
starts.
but that's why I say, if people like us were in the room, even with Trump, right? And we said, brother, they'll build statues of you in every single city in America if you get money out of politics. You'd be like, I'm listening.
Sounds good.
No, he would tell you that he already had.
Have you seen the building? Have you seen the name on the top of the building?
Listen, Cenk, man, it's been a pleasure, brother. You know what I mean? I love these conversations like this because, to your point, these conversations aren't happening on mainstream media, which is why I watch mainstream media, but I watch it for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
When I want real news, I watch the weekly show with Jon Stewart. I watch the Young Turks. I listen to things like that. That's where I get my information from. You know, and I still give it up to Bill Maher. I think Bill Maher's having great conversations on Friday nights because you have to talk to everybody. Because if you just label this person a conservative, this person a Democrat, you won't even hear the nuance of what either one of those sides are saying. And if you listen right now, at this very moment, on what day is this we're recording this? On June 11, 2025, this moment right now, it's more people sounding exactly alike than people want to admit. Right now, at this moment, there's more people sounding exactly alike than people want to admit.
We just got to get rid of the tribalism. The tribalism is what's preventing us from getting together, right? And I said this like a decade ago. We used to put it on pins and stuff. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. It's all of them versus us.
That's right.
Okay? So if you realize, hey, they're telling you that Biden is young and dynamic because they want you to obey, right? Stop obeying. They're telling you that Trump doesn't care about himself. Come on, get real, man. Of course he cares about himself, right? Stop obeying and listen to one another. Listen to one another. Why did I know that MAGA was going to rebel? Because I listened to them.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? So Bill Maher and I have a bunch of disagreements and significant disagreements, to which I would say, so what? Okay? I agree with him that you talk to other people.
Yep.
You talk to the right, the left, etc. How are we all going to get along?
And listen, talk and listen.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listening is the most important part. Because if people listen to one another, you think, like a lot of people on the left think, oh, MAGA loves corruption. You guys are crazy. They don't love corruption.
Yeah.
They just don't know that Trump's corrut.
Donald Trump loves corruption.
Yeah, Donald
By the
Trump
way,
loves corruption.
Donald Trump don't know he's being corrupt either.
Yeah.
Donald Trump just getting to the bag. I think he's just getting to the bag. I'm not even joking. Because when you hear him talk, when I really truly believe him, when he was on Meet the Press and they asked him, do you have to uphold the Constitution? He said, I don't know. I got to talk to my lawyers. I really believe he did not know.
That's the amazing part. Yeah.
And until somebody tells him otherwise.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, look, first of all, there's a lot of things he doesn't know, right? I mean, you remember the Declaration of Independence? Oh, that's a thing for unity. No, it's the opposite. It was to rebel. He doesn't know anything. Like, shouldn't, as the President of the United States, know the Constitution, et cetera? That's all true, but at the same time, he's all about getting the bag, right? So, and you're right that he doesn't think that's corruption. He's like, what do you mean? Like, there's a great quote from him from before he became president. They're like, the Saudis are doing all this and you're taking a lot of money from them. They're buying all these properties of yours. He's like, they're giving me $30, $40 million an apartment. What do you want me to do? Say no? He's like, my job is to get the bag.
Listen, Bill Clinton was on he was on CBS Sunday Morning, and I'm surprised it didn't become a bigger quote. I don't even know what the fuck Bill Clinton was talking about. I just remember he goes, when you're president, doing the right thing is the hardest thing to do.
Most people don't have any idea, most people who are criticizing the Democrats right now have no idea how difficult it is to decide the right thing to do. I think it's not as easy as people think. That will come, elections will happen, and we will see. President Trump has a right to do what he thinks is right. He's doing it. The courts are doing their jobs. There will be other elections. But someone needs to stand up and say, damn it, what we have in common matters more. We cannot throw the legacy of this country away. We cannot destroy other people's trust in us. We need to preserve that and find a way to work together and not humiliate other people just so we can win. We got to just calm down and try to pull people together again. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Why?
I don't know. Yeah. But if we're watching Trump in a nutshell, is that not Trump in a nutshell? It seems like the right thing to do is the hardest thing for him to do. But Bill Clinton said that. I don't know what the fuck that means.
I know what it means.
What do you mean?
Because the people at the top want the status quo. Okay, you don't want anyone rocking the boat if it's your boat. Okay. So everybody in Washington is powerful. So when the president says, let's say he said, let's get money out of politics, every Big Pharma, oil, it's all those people are like, no!
Not happening today.
Fucking way, no way. Because they're going to lose their power. Their boat's going to get rocked.
Got you.
If you're already at the top, you don't want that at all. So all of the pressure is to not change the system. So that's why Clinton goes, wow, it's so hard, right? That's why Obama didn't negotiate drug prices. He came in and he said, oh, and the drug lobby's so powerful that, and by the way, all the press wrote it. Oh, drug companies are powerful. That's why Obama had to do that, et cetera. But what does it mean that they're powerful? It means they give money to politicians, and
no primary.
He couldn't get it passed in Congress because Congress is bought.
Yes,
Congress is bought, right?
But now with, obviously our platforms, we can get the message out there. And I think like the most important thing for the pharmaceutical companies, the military industrial complex, like what you need to start doing is buying ads on this podcast and buying ads of the Young Turks and making sure that your future in America is concrete. Okay. There's one way to do it, and we will charge you a fair rate.
You hear us, Pfizer?
Pfizer, Bayer, Raytheon, Palantir. We have real estate available on the Brilliant Idiots podcast.
Oh,
I got to get out of here, boys.
Yeah, man. Cenk, tell them where to follow you, brother.
Young Turks, tyt.com is our website, but Young Turks is on almost every platform. Make sure you're checking out Young Turks on YouTube, for example, at 6 o'clock Eastern, every day, 6 o'clock Eastern, Young Turks on YouTube.
That's right. As always, if you listen to this podcast, you think we're smart, you think we're intelligent, you think we're brilliant, you're absolutely right. But if you listen to this podcast and think we're just a couple of idiots who don't know shit, you're right too. Thank you for watching. It's the Brilliant Idiots Podcast. Thank you for listening.